perfectly live with no tech issues. Basically the best gaming podcast. No tech issues right now. Everything is perfect. Can I get a sound check from you? Absy?
Sorry, I was watching the thing. What's up?
Sound check?
Yeah, what's up? Hello.
There we go.
Wait, are we?
Yeah.
We're live.
Yeah, we're live. You were watching the last time on ACG or whatever.
Oh yeah, I was watching the intro of the podcast. Are we live? Live? Yeah, we're live.
We're
What's
live.
up?
Live.
Yeah,
What's
yeah, I
up,
see
everybody? We'll
myself.
just wave. What's up, everybody? Thank you for showing up for the best gaming podcast, as you can tell by just how slick our entries are. I mean, just smooth, man. Like
Yeah,
a
man.
running back getting into the gap. We're just like,
We're so scuffed.
we a little bit, yeah. 426, podcast number 426. If you get a chance, tweet it out to everybody. Post that you're doing it. If you don't see these kind of notifications, the only thing I can say, if you're watching this later, is to probably unsubscribe and then resubscribe and hit all. There's been a ton of issues with YouTube. Today in particular, I responded to somebody who watched my last 2023 games of 2023. You may have missed 2020.
No, I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The game is up.
Yeah,
the thing,
so somebody responded and they were like, yeah, like Liza P. And I responded to the guy below him and who said there was no Liza P in the video. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's right in the video. Liza P is in the video. But
Okay.
it double posted on two other comments, including the guy who liked Liza P. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Can you not read? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't even see the comment. It just went back and forth. And I was like, that is a perfect Wednesday moment for me. Like, as Wednesday was
Hump
rolling up
day.
and that happened, I was like, hump day. Every time for us. It's complete. It's just complete. In the chat, Tilted Token, you were frozen too with a captivating intro. Yeah. We like to throw you guys a little bit of a surprise, make you sort of guess exactly what's going on. I thought he was frozen. No. Our tech is going to work perfectly, man. Perfectly. This won't be Johnny. Johnny's not on the tech. We had Johnny pop out Friday too. You weren't here this Friday, right?
No, I was not. I was
You were
very
sick.
sick. I'm still sick. I think I have the vid.
Really?
Yep, maybe. I don't know. I didn't check, but I'm still sick. It comes in waves. This morning I was way more sick than I am right now.
Man, that sucks, dude. I yesterday worked out with Cadiz, and I came home, and I think I got lost, first of all, going somewhere, because my car's navigation system only works when you're parked.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you're on a freeway, blasting at 90 miles an hour, it's not helpful. And so I missed a turn, and in Eugene, they're known for really crazy streets that just go nowhere, freeways that like end in the middle of a city, just no turn off, just and I got lost. And when I got home, man, I had one of those back of the neck, right at the nubbins on the side of your skull, like when you're holding your chin really heavy.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
dude, it was miserable, man.
Yeah.
It was all night. I was like, and I'm you know me, like I am a wussy when it comes to headaches. Like the smallest headache, anybody else would probably
headaches.
ignore it.
Fuck
I'm like,
you. Headaches and motion sickness. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm such a wuss when it comes to I give up on life. I'm like, I'm just laying down.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, we were playing we would play Ghost Recon Wildlands a lot, and whenever we drive in a vehicle, you'd get sick. You'd get like actually sick.
Yeah. Luckily I got that boning now, so I can play, but it doesn't help this thing that I got, which again I think it's from like holding your chin stiff. It reminded me of when I spar and you have a tendency to bite down your mouthpiece. Hopefully that's not what you have though. Like,
well, no.
Let's go and hope that you don't have the vid, because that would suck.
Hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully not. But
are you gonna test?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, what difference does it make? Well, I guess the difference is that
the difference is being around others would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Plus, my grandma visited me. That would suck. Yeah.
Dude, it's why it's just like cold everything. Prior to all this, I was always watching out because my parents are of that age. My grandparents in particular have one of my grandmas. Her name was that's what we called her, Little Grandma. She was like 103 and probably had an immune system just like wax paper, where just pretty much anything got through it. They poured some liquid on it, and I was like, dude, I ain't gonna mess with this old lady. Like, you'd even watch when you went over. We'd do the thing where like a week prior to going over, you'd check with everybody and be like, are you? Because you don't want to be the one who kills Little Grandma. Like
For sure.
that's the world's worst Little House on the Prairie episode.
Yeah.
Aunt Carrot killed Grandma. You're like,
what you say?
yeah. Well, hopefully
like
you're
soap
fine.
opera.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what it's
yeah.
like. I definitely know what it's like feeling ill. This week has definitely been off for me as well. You guys watched, I did a 2023 games you may have missed video. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover the PlayStation Portal and my review of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to cover Game of the Year. Not Game of the Year, I'm sorry. Should
Just the
start
whole
this all over.
Or we
Yeah,
can do
we're
it.
going to start the awards, nominees stuff. Well, I'm going to try to be super not negative.
Yeah.
You know, I have my own beliefs on all this kind of stuff, but I'm happy for the devs when they get
For sure.
nominated. Yeah.
For sure. I have yeah, no, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
No, that's all right. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say the biggest issue I had with it was putting City Skylines 2 in there and the Simmons strategy and not Age of Wonders. But that's the biggest issue I had. That's pretty
Age
much
of
it.
Wonders is not nominated?
It's not nominated, but the game that besotted computers and wouldn't work on 90% of people's PCs got nominated. So I just wanted to understand the idea of that, you know what I mean? Like the strategy behind that. But you know.
Okay, so no outside influence at all, but I will say that I would question anybody if they thought City Skylines 2 was better than Age of Wonders 4, even at the very basic level of just being a game. Because that game has so many issues that its game parts have difficulty getting to you. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
like
I have no idea. Because I legitimately believe Age of Wonders is one of the, if not the best 4X that I played in, you know, in recent memory. So yeah, that was just, that
so
was like
good.
the biggest thing I was confused about. The other stuff, you know, whatever. But
yeah.
A lot of people were saying no Xbox games got nominated, but then again, I saw Hi-Fi Rush in there, so I don't know what that's all about, right? Hi-Fi Rush is an Xbox. It got nominated for art direction and best audio design and music.
Yeah, I mean, and Hi-Fi Rush is, I don't know, dude. Sometimes I the more arguments people make, the more sort of like delineated or dialed down their argument becomes. Right? Yeah, until they're like, well, technically, no Xbox game that had a over 100 gig install got installed. And you're like, the fuck? Who's talking about that? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So you get to that kind of thing. Hi-Fi Rush, admittedly, stealth dropped, so I think it surprised a bunch of people, but is a fantastic title. Speaking of fantastic titles, let's discuss what we've been playing. You've been playing a game that is near and dear to my heart. You finally jumped into it, and that is Leisure Suit Larry.
Before I get to that.
Just joking.
Before I get to that, let's start with a game I'd like to share. No, one game I'm playing, my single player game that I'm playing is still Yakuza Gaiden, and I wasn't too hot at it at first, but the more I play, the more fun I'm having. The more I play, the more fun. The more stuff I unlock, the more the story picks up and stuff. I'm liking it more and more. One game I'd really like to shout out that I played last week and I missed this year was Trepang 2. I think Trepang 2 is one of the best shooters I've played. Like for years, man. Like it is short. It's kind of short. It's like 4 to 8 hours, and depending on if you do like side quests or whatever. But it's kind of like Fear, where the enemy AI is just awesome. And you know, there's something I always complain about, and I complained about it in Cyberpunk, is where once one enemy sees you, every enemy just knows where you are at all times, and you can't like shake that. You know what I mean?
It's like somehow they're receiving information about it. It's like, it's right there, man.
Yeah. But with Trepang 2, the AI is very good, and they lose track of you. There's like an invisibility thing you can press or get behind cover, and they shoot where you last were and start investigating when you're in cover and they can't see you, and they just react accordingly and flank and do all that stuff. It reminded me a lot of Fear, and it's fantastic. Plus it's just really fun. They give you very, very basic mechanics where it's easy to learn, but then the skill ceiling is high because you can do a lot with that stuff, you know what I mean? It's just a fun game, just a really fun game. Nothing to write home about when it comes to story, but I think the enemy AI combat design and just the pure fun factor is definitely up there. I would recommend it for sure if you're looking for if Modern Warfare couldn't scratch that itch, you know, that's like something there. plus really fun gunplay. I really like the Counter-Strike kind of um method of gunplay where you don't really aim down sights, like you just move your cursor and just shoot, and your right click is something else. It's not even, there's no ADSing in it. And then the game that I've been playing co-op that I didn't get to play in the summer because I was on vacation, and I don't know if I missed a lot of conversations around it, but I feel like I was very undersold on it because it's honestly a really, really, really good game. I personally think this is like an amazing co-op experience that I've been wanting for years. And all we've been getting is either live service or single player. And Remnant 2 is just fucking incredible. I think I have like 10 hours in it playing with a friend. And the biggest thing about it that impressed me the most is the exploration and level design, first of all. I think depending on the world you're in, at least in the first world we were in, this like open area, it's all about exploration, so you don't really get quest markers or anything. But what's really cool is that it gave me that Elden Ring feeling where my friend and I are just like kind of traveling through the world, and we'd go like, oh, a door, or oh, an elevator, and then we'd go down the elevator and it'd lead to like this massive dungeon, and each dungeon I've seen is like completely different. Like one dungeon was like a train, dude. Like we were in a fucking train battling through it. Another dungeon, there's something about the level design that like only survival horror games really hit, and it's that sense of when you figure something out about like the level on how to get through the level, that dominoes start falling and you get like this huge dopamine rush. For example, we were in this like one dungeon where it needed these like balls for doors to open, and like you'd have to like pick up balls and put them elsewhere and stuff, and it was, the level itself was kind of a puzzle. And once you like figure out every section and how to move forward, it kind of like it's like way more than I thought. It's not just like a looter shooter at all. You know what I mean? It's very, very exploration based. Everything you get, like there's no XP or whatever. Well, there is. You level up. Sorry, you level up your job. But like you find ability upgrades in the world. You find whole new abilities in the world. You find gear in the world. You find material to craft like unique stuff in the world. Everything you obtain, and I love that. Like for example, one of my favorite things in Zelda is that you upgrade the way to upgrade yourself is by exploration. I always enjoy that, where the way to like find trait points and new trait trees is just by like exploring, defeating bosses. And speaking of bosses, one of the I think I've gone through like two or three major bosses so far, and the boss design, the mechanics are just very, very good. They're very they require more than just kind of aim and dodging. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, dodge this and aim and stuff. They usually have like in level mechanics. Like one of them had platforms rising and falling and stuff, and it would create cover for you. And every time the boss is about to do an ability, each ability is like a different color, and the more you do the boss, the more you kind of recognize those colors, and you'd know what to do. Like for example, I see blue, I go behind cover, or the level falls and the floor starts like highlighting red, and if you're in the red, it kind of like blows up and stuff. Like there's a lot of cool, very neat mechanics. Like another one was also in a whole world called the Labyrinth, and the boss itself was a labyrinth where it's not really a boss, but it's a boss fight. But you're kind of moving through this labyrinth while boxes are kind of falling towards you, and you have to shoot the sides of the boxes that create a hole which you can hide inside. And it's more of a puzzly strategy thing that it requires more so than only skill. You know what I mean? It's kind of like firing on all cylinders. And it's just really, really fun to play co-op. So I'm really having fun with it. Remnant 2, it's a really good game so far.
I don't think you were probably undersold, but I'm going to put a little bit of the blame on you. And the reason why is because at the time when we were talking about it, you had too many games, and you were in a consistent bitch fest.
I was on vacation
not
as well.
bitching, but you were in a consistent bitch fest about there were so many games you didn't have enough time. And Remnant 2 happened to be the one that you like didn't get out of all of this group of games. But if you were, I don't know if you remember this, but every time you mention Remnant 2, one of the things Johnny or Cadiz or myself or the people playing would mention is that number one, it's just better than one in all ways.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
in
like
all
if
ways,
you like
yeah.
one, there isn't a reason to not get two. But the big thing for me is they did something that needs to be done every game from now on in the future. Any game that has classes or weapons or blah, 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 have unlockable classes in the levels. There are hidden classes that you
Yeah.
cannot even get. And some guy figured out that if, like, you shoot a grate and let water fill a level and wait 45 minutes, you fight a bad guy,
These
and
water
then you
cooler.
get a class. Yeah. There was
Yeah.
another guy that if you get kidnapped and you wake up and a certain other thing happens and you kill that guy, you get his class. To me, that is the very essence of, like, why I would continue playing those games. Also, their DLC is fantastic. They just continually release classes. So,
Dude, I was very surprised because usually you'd see like $10 or $20 for a skin or a weapon skin or something. But I was looking, I was buying the DLC and it was like $5, at least for me. And I bought it and I thought it was just a class, but it was like new class, new story, new location, new enemies. And I was like, God damn, for $5? That's
Yeah.
fucking cool, man. And I love that it's just not live service. You can play it offline and there's no like, I feel like a lot of games these days are either live service or single player. There's no in between that much. You know what I mean?
dude, there's a reason why I just installed it 2 days ago, because randomly Johnny and I were in a voice chat and we were talking about you and Cadiz and all these people playing it. And he's like, I'm installing it. I'm like, dude, I installed it last night. The first time somebody mentioned they wanted to replay it. And that's pretty rare for me. I just don't have time normally. But it's like, that is a game I would have zero problems going back to. It's just fun. It is incredibly well done. It was very well done day one. It had some issues, but now it's just gotten better. I mean, it reminds me of what I hoped Darktide would be, and what I hoped Back 4 Blood would be.
I imagine if Darktide was like that.
Patched itself to become awesome, but 3 of these games have released only one. I don't know. It's third person. I get that it's not first person like those, but there's an overlapping feel to all those games, and I feel like only Remnants hit it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in a recent podcast even I was like talking about how, man, I wish there was just like an actual just co-op game where you and a friend can just go through a game and not be mired in this bullshit of like always online with other people and having to like upgrade this stuff with like 20 different currencies and all that shit. Just like an unadulterated, you know, just co-op kind of experience like the olden days. Yeah, and this one just it took what old co-op games were like and brought it into the modern world in a really smart way. Like the decisions around how the game is designed is just really it's really hidden, you know. It's hitting me.
I'm such a sucker, dude, also for a game that is fantasy and post-apocalyptic. I'm always going to be a sucker for that.
And sci-fi,
like
right?
Yeah, some sci-fi, but it's just something about maxing. This is why I like Legendary, even though I think it scored a 2 out of 10 on most places. But when you mix fantasy, in the movie Reign of Fire with Christian Bale, with the dragons coming back, and Matthew McConaughey is the dragon slayer or whatever. Like, the idea of guns and dragons is, to me, one of the coolest things in the world. It's like, okay, this is the epitome of magic, the highest level of magic, Lord of the Rings level when Lord of the Rings was cool, and our best firepower. And let's put them together against you. And there's something fucking awesome about that. So, like, when you're shooting guys in the undead level, the not the undead, but the mad, crazy, like, town level, and they're cackling, and you're just mowing them down. They're throwing sickles at you, and you're like, "What the fuck? This is just so different." It feels good.
You know, I haven't been to that world, and that world sounds way more fantasy than the first world I was in, which was basically more alien and drones and
Mass Effect. You're talking about Novaria.
Very Mass Effect.
Dude, it's straight up Novaria. Yeah, that's so funny, because when I was reviewing it, I was like, there is what you would consider to be a Mass Effect style alien world, which is fun, but it's a little persnickety. There's like sometimes where I got lost, and Johnny and I would be like, okay, we need to get up there. So
where have we not went? You know, we need to find that second key. Where's that second key? No, what I loved as well, what's very, very cool is that like that first world was very sci-fi, very, very open spaces. But and then we went into the second world, which was basically a labyrinth. And not only did the atmosphere completely change because like the labyrinth like looked nothing, it was just completely different. But
Yeah.
the feel, it was like a different game where the feeling of exploration, where one was akin to maybe Elden Ring, where it's like, you know, open spaces and you go and you find dungeons. The second one was more like of a tighter survival horror thing, not like horror obviously, but kind of like, you know, it's a labyrinth and you got portals going everywhere, and like, you know, it's just like a completely different feel of the, and if it stays fresh with every world, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's cool you got into it. It's just generally a really good game. It performs fairly well, runs, you know, I would say about where you expect. I know we talked about this a little prior, but I mean, overall, I think it runs where you expect. It looks pretty nice. It's got handmade weapons, which I know a lot of people are unaware of. They thought it was like random loot, but those guys went in and every weapon is hand touched.
It's handcrafted.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
one
one
cool weapons.
That's one really, really cool thing about the gear that you pick up, like the rings and amulets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not stat increases. It's as if take legendaries from Diablo. It's as if every single piece of gear you pick up is a legendary, because each single one has a special thing, like a very different, unique, special thing. One of them could be like ammo reserves. One of them could be like, oh, if you stand still for a second, you start shooting faster. One of them could be like, oh, if you start sprinting, time starts slowing down. You know, it's like very, very different just effects. You know what I mean? Not like +5 damage. You know, I haven't like seen anything.
All of the BS +5 stuff needs to go from games anyway. Like if I don't care if you've got 6 skills, 6 is better than 26 if 20 of them are +1% to damage. You're like 1%. I don't even know the damage of the gun, because that's also a percentage. You know, like whenever they do soft DPS, for example, they'll go like 1d6 for the damage on the gun, and you're like, okay, so that could be 1 to 6. That's fine. But then you get an item that's like 5% of that, and you're like, okay. So 5% of 1, what's that going to turn into in real damage? Does it go up by a full number?
Yeah.
You know, you start getting really this. Feel it, dude, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't. No, the one thing I didn't like in Remnant 2 is there's that guy on the edge of the fucking building who sells, like, you trade him some item and he gives you little trinkets, and for a long time you have to keep leveling that up, because for the first couple hours, those, I think, are very close to what we're talking about. Where I was like, all right,
is
dude,
it like the relic mods that is just like plus blight resistance?
Yeah. You continue building that up and it goes higher. But regardless of that, I think at the starting, I was like, oh, dude, this is the one place I don't want to talk to this guy. You know, it's like when you go to your favorite store because they have something new all the time, or maybe you go because the girl's hot. But most of the time, you're going because there's something new, and some of those stores in some games you go to and you're like, it's going to be one gun. You know, it's going to be. I was confused in Remnant 2. I don't know about you. The guy at the shooting gallery or whatever sells the weapons. When you first go, it can be quite confusing that all the weapons are there. And because a lot of games don't do that. A lot of games don't just throw
like all the starter weapons.
Yeah,
right?
all the starter. Yeah. And so at first you're like, oh, well, I don't want to get those because that's. And then you realize, no, it's not like that. It's like you can use if you want.
Yeah, if you want.
You can do that.
You'll still find others. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an odd setup, but it's good. Yeah.
I found a really cool sword where the power of it was way more intricate than it's like really, really cool. And it's kind of like a combo thing. It feels like a samurai kind of. It's like a spectral sword, and it does like this whole whirlwind slash thing if you like do a neutral dodge and then a left click hold, you know what I mean? Which is really, really cool. Yeah.
I also liked in that game where, personally for me, I know we were talking about what classes. I liked the dog. I know some people didn't, but I liked having the different stances. But regardless of that character, there's other characters. All of them have a special that is, and then you can multi-class. But the specials, when you start unlocking parts, they pretty dramatically change.
Oh, yeah.
What exactly is going on. For example, the dog being able to resuscitate you is a big bonus if you're single player. And then
for sure,
you get other ones where it's like, you know, I don't remember all of the classes, but I know the healing classes. I remember Johnny, I think, was a healer. Yeah. And it was powerful because everybody can heal, but I remember his heal. I don't even remember what it was. I just remember he would drop it, I think.
Yeah.
And then you go into it. And so you have to communicate, which sometimes I'd
Dude,
be on the other side of the level. But yeah,
I think the mechanic for the healer, I'm playing the healer, and it's just so good, so much fun because so I have a mod on my weapon where I can shoot like the little balls that heal and stuff like that. And if I miss, like it'll stay on the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
And so at first, like I was looking and there was like a bar that was filling up the more I heal. And I was like, why is this bar filling up? Is there a limit to how much I can heal? And I started getting a little bit worried. We're like, oh, fuck, don't you dare. And then I read the class and it was like, as you heal more and you max out the bar, when you get to reach the end of the bar, it just regenerates a relic for you, an actual like heal. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool mechanic where you can just, and I keep finding rings and stuff that augment my heals and skills, and building around that is really, really cool, man. Like when everything fits together, and you choose the right skills and perks, and you just got a solid build. It's really fun. And I still haven't multi-classed yet, so that'll be a lot of fun.
So if you haven't multi-classed, you've actually got quite a large.
I'm waiting for the
things
summoner to find to get the summoner class. I wanna, or the new class. I wanna kind of.
Yeah, there's two new classes actually. There's that Witcher looking dude, and then earlier than that, there was some guy in armor, Banisher. Maybe am I saying that?
Okay.
Or there was also a DLC that I believe was a new level, a new boss and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot. They're doing a good job with it. Reading some super chats. Tilted Token, $2 super chat. Opinion on the completionist situation. So Abzi and I were talking about this prior to the podcast. The most I've done is look at a synopsis or a summary of like 30 seconds of two people's videos. Forgive me.
Two people.
Two people's
some
videos?
ordinary gamers and the other guy.
Yeah, of something about what do you call them? Not a donation, but
they're like charity.
Charity, yeah, where they hadn't chosen the charity yet, and it's been years. So I mean, like that's I don't know how you respond to that. Like if it's been there for years, there is definitely a response needed. But I unfortunately haven't seen if any response was given yet this morning, and I don't know how other people investigate that, because I don't. When I donate through a charity that's like already there. You know, you can make your own if you want, and I have family members who are ill, so it's like, oh, maybe you do one. But overall, I usually just find that it's easier to let somebody else do all that shit. So it's like if I want to donate for animals, I'm not going to make my own donation system. I'm just going to donate for some animals.
What's weird? It's such a brutal situation because what makes it worse, I think, not only is it obviously like people's money that they thought was going somewhere beneficial. One of the biggest issues as well is that he started that foundation because his mom passed away from not Alzheimer's, what's the other, dementia.
Keep talking, I'm listening.
Right.
Oh, really?
So his mom was affected by it. That's why he started the foundation to kind of help research for dementia. So it's just doubly shitty taking that into account, kind of. I don't know. Like I'm maybe I do have to wait for more information to come out and stuff. The evidence was pretty stark, but it was pretty but that kind of makes it morally worse for me, where it's like, my mom died from this, and I'm doing it to help.
That's the way humans deal with it. It's like you hear somebody say this person screwed over Karak. Well, Karak is a 40-year-old guy. Doesn't matter. Oh, well, they screwed over some children too. Whoa, wait. Whoa. You mean you screwed over kids? You know what I mean? So it's like it's just screwed over, and then you add to it and add to it and add to it. And I always give the benefit of the doubt of anybody who like has to respond to something like that. But sometimes you get something where somebody will be like, this person said something bad. And you're like, all right, whatever. You don't, but they did some investigation. I just don't know how it was done, because I didn't track that part.
Tax forms or something, apparently.
From a nonprofit.
I saw, like, from what I saw, like the documents looked legit, and I
would assume they were from those guys. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Is it ordinary? One of those two
did
the other guy does the investigations on the cheater who cheated on all the co-op on the coin operated games. Billy something, but he got caught cheating on speed runs of old coin op. His name is like on the list, Billy something. But the guy who helped Ordinary Gamer has done those investigations. But I don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but it looks. I mean, it's like obviously, in today's day and age, first of all, you should never fuck somebody over. Second of all,
Yeah.
if you're called out like that, you have to in some way respond. And I don't know what the response is to that, because
I don't know,
also
apparently,
it's not
yeah.
his. I believe they said it was a family member's, and then
I think it's like a family
See.
business. Like his brother's on it. He's on
whenever
it.
I say I believe, then I just stop talking, because it's like I
So-
would want people to give me the
yeah.
benefit of the doubt. I'm not even saying for him. I'm saying for anything. It's like I believe
guess so.
isn't the same as knowing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've seen like this, like someone here said he says he's been holding it until it was a large amount and then donate it all at once. I don't think I buy that. I don't. Why would like that he's been holding it for years and years and years. And the initial response wasn't that at all. Like if that was the case, it would have been like come right out and say that. But it's just sus all around. Like it's very, very sus, right? So
yeah. James Morani, $5 super chat. Gang, just want to support the boys. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you very much for showing up on a Wednesday. I appreciate it. People have always asked us if we like doing these, or we're going to continue to do them. Yeah, the Wednesday podcasts are going. I'm sure there's going to be a time where we won't be able to make it for whatever reason. If Absy doesn't show up and I decide not to invite one of the other guys, which is probably what I do. If I didn't, we might not do one. But overall, the Wednesday podcast is going to stay going. It's fun to do. It breaks up my day, and there's something about it that lets us hit the news. Hit the news a little bit better on Wednesdays. Then when Friday comes around, I don't feel... There's been times where we've left Friday and I'm like, man, we shot the shit. That was amazing. Then I look at the topics list and I'm like, and we didn't hit 45 things we were supposed to hit. That's on me.
Of course, yeah.
That's completely on me because I control... No. Nah, dude, come on. I've got the list. Like, that's on me.
True,
and
true,
it's
true.
just
Okay.
because I like talking to you guys. But if we separate it, it helps. It's a little easier to go, okay, Friday isn't filled with Wednesday shit. Speaking of that, super chats, let's do this real quick. Well, first of all, we're going to hit Discord. We're going to go with any quick discussions they have in Discord. Ric Flair Randy says, what non-VR game do you think would translate to VR perfectly or really well? The AC VR game seems to be getting decent previews, which is something I did not expect. Because that makes me sick just thinking about it.
Yeah, that's
just
weird.
the idea of VR and Assassin's Creed. But here's my true opinion. And I believe this wholly. If they change just a couple things, I think a Call of Duty would be fantastic in VR. And speed is your problem because Call of Duty's quick. And I'm not talking about the multiplayer. I'm talking about a single campaign. You get an 8-hour campaign, World at War VR. You adjust a little bit so it's a little slower because a human is slower than flicking a gamepad or a mouse. But I've always felt that the Call of Duty games look amazing. They always look the way I want a VR game to usually look. And Half-Life Alyx is the only one that's ever looked like that. And so to me, I would love to see Microsoft say, oh, we're supporting WMR in this way by asking Activision to start porting some of these over to where, I don't even know how they would do it. I would love to see it. I like shooting games. I love military games. CODs are great gun porn. They're a blast. You pick up an AK-47 with a red dot. Then you pick up with a green dot. Then you pick up with a, and everything matters. You're just like, oh, what's it? Oh, what's this? I want that in a VR game. Is there any for you that you would like to see that's current out, like Witcher or Stalker? Stalker would be Metro. Stalker.
Any immersive sim would be just
Prey.
awesome. Prey, any of those for sure. I don't know. I
Didn't
used to
Prey
be a
have
lot
VR
more
mode already.
enthusiastic and wanting for things to be
VR.
in VR, but now I kind of don't. But I always thought the games that made the best VR were the ones that were kind of stationary, where you're in a thing, or, you know what I mean, like the mech
Battletech.
game,
Yeah.
or like a spaceship or like a car or anything, because that's the most believable. Because it's very very difficult to replicate kind of moving around. Like how are you going to move around? Like I don't know how widespread the little what are those things called, like the oval things where you can run around and walk around and stuff.
The safety area around you.
Yeah, but
Holodeck?
like the ones that move around, under you, kind of
Oh, you mean a virtual treadmill? Like
like a treadmill or
yeah,
something
like a
that
virtual
that you
treadmill.
can
Yeah.
run on and stuff like that. I don't know how they would do it. I always
Game
imagined.
On has one. Asa, he's come on before. He's got one. He's got
I
a video game
yeah.
treadmill. Mm-hmm.
I
He's a
always had
huge
the
video game.
idea like you know what, VR, if it's not going to plug right into your brain and simulate everything in your brain so that your brain feels everything, I would imagine, like, for example, first of all, gloves that have very, very good haptics, so that if you pick up an object in the VR world, it feels like you're picking up that object. It'll give that weight and it'll give that like sense of like kind of, stoppage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That is one thing I'd like to see. And another thing that is completely unrealistic is, like, imagine there's like a box, right? And in the real world, there's like a box filled with like this element or this material, like gooey material,
this
right?
is going.
And you go and you're suspended in the middle of the gooey material, and it like forms and deforms around you, so that it like forms the floor under you, and then you kind of like run, and then if there's a wall, it'll like form a wall in front of you or some shit. I don't know, but that's like the only thing I can think of, other than just plug into the brain matrix shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that also in VR, when you're in a machine, it works better. When you're in a starship, Star Trek, I liked Bridge Crew, the Star Trek Bridge Crew. I thought that was really impressive, actually, but it was inside of a ship. Those do just work better. But the reason why I want to Call of Duty, dude, is because I think VR needs a big name. And Alex was a big name for a bit, but then it died, like Half-Life is wont to do, where it's just like, that's it. And, there's nothing new. It's just like, this is it. And once you're done with that experience, what you're left with is a headset yearning for that experience again.
Yeah, and they did it for that Valve headset, right?
That's how it started. Yeah. That was why they pushed it, but it was compatible with all of them, and it worked better.
It was. Yeah,
on many of them because of the higher resolution. Unlike some of the headsets, you were playing, going, "Oh wow, this actually looks better on the competitor's headset." But
right.
PSVR is getting a driver here in the next week for PSVR 2. Unfortunately, AMD video cards only, because they're mimicking the PSVR APU, which is AMD.
Oh, so you can use it on a PC?
Yep.
That's huge.
On AMD.
That's huge.
It has to be an AMD chipset.
CPU or cards?
I believe it's GPU, but I could be wrong on that, because if it's CPU, it's even more of an issue, really. But because I could always throw an AMD in a slot and, I switch video cards. But yeah, I'm excited for that, because it is a fairly good headset. I think it's pretty comfortable. And I would like to see PC power run through it and see what it can do with a high definition, like Half-Life Alyx or something. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's hard to know what would work with VR. We're going to talk about your other posts. I saw Remnant 2 DLC thoughts. We talked about that a little bit.
Yep.
Vicarious says, what's a sound effect from a game that lives rent-free in your head? Like you can hear it clear as day.
The first thing that comes to mind is like the radiation stuff from Fallout, like the and a lot of stuff remind me of it. Yeah, the rad counter.
So good.
A lot of shit reminds me of it. Like a lot of stuff in games that have like a similar kind of sound. It always brings me back to that. And then another one is like there's the World of Warcraft bear sounds, like or whatever, like when it like swipes and stuff, which is mostly stuck in my head because that sample is used in so many different games and movies and cartoons and shit. I keep hearing the same one over and over whenever there's a bear in a game.
And mine, without a shadow of a doubt, man, is just the when the Halo shield resets.
Oh,
It will forever, ever, 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 ever be in my brain. It is the coolest, and it's got that. This is going to sound really weird, but there's something about it that sounds like a woman whispering into your ear or something. There's a tone to it. There's a
really,
yeah. If you
is that how you like your woman to moan?
No, not moan. I said whisper. We're talking about different things.
Okay.
But if you hear somebody whisper, there's a sound, a wind, the wind, and when somebody whispers in your ear, you can't hear wind when you and I are talking. You can't hear, but when somebody whispers in your ear, you hear the. And that it hits that.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Dude, it's gorgeous. It actually feels, I'm gonna say sexy, and I don't mean sexy in that way. I just mean it's technological. It looks cool on the screen. And once I saw it once or twice, it also matters because no matter what you're doing in the game, if you hear that, you know what's occurring. It's better than a hit sound. It's better than anything. When you hear that, you're like, I know you can even guess how much health is coming back by like where a sound effect is in Halo in the tonal range. You just and this is getting in the weeds, but to me, that's what matters with sound and music. When something works that well, have you? I'm sure you've done that with not Crossfire X. What's the one you play? The shooter.
Dark Tide?
No, the big popular one.
Counter-Strike?
Yeah, when you're playing Counter-Strike, whatever, have you ever hit that last bullet and it tunk?
Yeah.
And
you hear the tracer bullets, right?
And your Pavlov, man, you just like reload your brain. There's no, and some shooters now, they start to do the thing where you can hear the clip emptying. And when you get to that last fourth, it's like got a chicka, 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 chicka. And your brain is like 3, 4, 2, 1, and magic, man.
You know what surprisingly has amazing sound design when it comes to like alerting the player is Dark Tide, you know?
Does it?
Yeah, within the midst of the chaos and the music and everything happening, whenever there's like a special enemy, each single different enemy type makes a very distinct sound that sits on its own frequency and is kind of highlighted and you
sort
can
of
hear it
mastered
very
in
well.
There in a gap.
It's mixed very well in there where there is a gap somehow because there's so much chaos and a wave is attacking everything. But then the flamethrower guy comes, you hear tick, 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 and you just know. You're like, oh, flamethrower guy is right there. You know what I mean?
That's pretty sweet.
They did
I didn't
so
know
well.
That.
Yeah.
Dude, I was trying to explain it because one of my friends, he knows what he likes, but sometimes doesn't know how to describe it. And luckily we were driving and we merged perfectly with traffic. And I was like, that right there is when mastering is done well. When traffic is busy, but there is a lane that you can fit into, that's when that sound effect is there. And if you know somebody who's good in gaming, and by the way, they disagree. This came up on Reddit actually recently where somebody was like, hey, the Game Awards, people who say every year, I don't understand anything about music or scores, but they're rating music and scores was weird to him. And I was like, listen, I do get that. But even when I've had guests on the show, they may not argue, but the way they do things, you can tell if they were in a room, one would slightly master. And we know this from mastering of tracks in music where you get it, you know, Ross can show up and he'll do a track and you'll be like, oh, that's way different than Timberland would do. Like it's mastered, it's edited, it's all complete. It's got its own rhythm of where they put the audio and where they want everything to hit. And dude,
you know, man,
it's
sound designers in games are like unsung heroes and a half. Lately, it's just, I noticed this thing from a video I watched. Obviously, I didn't notice it on my own because it's fucking incredibly minute. But in Breath of the Wild, I'm pretty sure in Tears of the Kingdom as well. There's a song that happens in this like summit kind of area where it's like snowy and sometimes it's windy and sometimes it's not. But when the wind starts kicking in and the wind is kind of on like a lower frequency, the music gets a very, very minute like high pass filter or a low pass filter where it kind of takes out a little bit from the low frequency so that the wind itself can
stays
sit
there
and doesn't clash. And it's just, it blew my fucking mind, man.
Because if it does, anybody with even like lower headphones, you can hear that almost like where things start, where the speakers can't replicate all that's going on, and it's just noise. It's like this is just things went up, and you can adjust it with EQ sometimes on your own and isolate it a little bit or remove it. But yeah, dude, it's awesome. I remember when Austin Wintory was on, and he told me about the Syndicate soundtrack where if you've done one mission prior to this one track playing and killed a woman, she isn't singing during the soundtrack in that track.
Yes.
But if she's alive,
what game
she's
was that?
Singing. It was Syndicate. He said it was because he did. I believe it was Syndicate.
Was it
wasn't
because
it?
they do
well,
that
it was
in
whatever
other
one
games
he
as well.
did. Yeah.
Sure.
What'd you say? What other game?
Because I remember that happening in another game. Even Super Mario Wonder does that too. There's like levels where like the cactuses and shit would be singing, and then you can kill some off.
It was Syndicate. I wanted to make sure because that's such a big deal to me that I want to make sure I got that one right. But yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, any of those to me, that's That's pretty fucking magical that somebody was like, I'm going to write this and just throw some, there'll just be some lyrics on there, but it would do a little check. And that's the greatest thing about Wise and all of the sound profile software now. Because back in the day, it was audio, it was Redbook audio, it was CD, and it was a track. And that was it. And it would just layer. And maybe they had a way to curb the audio, but sometimes it was just, remember, you'd start some old levels and it would be like fading in, bing, da-da-ding, da-ding, da-ding, and nothing would change. That was just the music. And now we're playing games where they adjust and like a stinger rolls in at the correct time. If it's correct.
Dude, what game does it really well? Near Replicant and Automata. Oh, how it layers the tracks and sometimes makes them 8-bit. And like in Replicant in the main city, if you're like near the woman's voice would start coming in on the track. And then if you're far away, her voice would like fade out, but the instruments would stay.
I don't think I picked up on that. You mean her voice turns to 8-track almost? Or like
her voice like her the vocal she has is on its own mix. Like let's say there's like a volume slider, and the further away you are,
it goes up and okay, gotcha. Yeah, that stuff is or any open world game, and you find out there's like and by the way, I know people hate these games or they don't love them, but you got Watch Dogs, which a lot of times will have musicians on a street corner, and the idea when I remember doing Walking the Walks and coming around a corner. And you can barely hear, like, almost like a jazz, like, and they even did it to where the long sounds travel, the low frequency goes farther, the higher frequency doesn't, so it's caught up on all the buildings, but the low frequency is that vibe, and you can hear like a drum beat or boom, and you'd be like, what is that? And you keep getting closer and closer, and it filters in, then you see them playing on a street corner, and I'm like, dude. Or there's a soccer ball or a basketball, and you spend 4 hours bouncing a soccer ball on your knee, trying to get the highest score.
Yeah, I was doing that a lot when I played that.
Like an idiot. I was supposed to be reviewing the game, and I'm like, this soccer ball is like the best part. It wasn't the best part. But Big Mac says TGA nominations for the most anticipated games are NAF. Making me wonder if anything decent is slated for the next year. Can you think of any games in 2024 you're excited for? Fuck yeah.
Stalker 2.
Stalker 2, Banished, Space Marine 2. So there's
Wealth.
3. Infinite Wealth. There's 4.
Final
Infinite
Fantasy
Wealth,
Rebirth.
by the way, longest Yakuza ever. They announced yesterday.
That's crazy because 75 hours it took me for 7.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot. We'll have to actually discuss that on Friday too, because that might be too long. Yeah. But that's 4 games minimum, and then we're probably missing 4 or 5 minimum other games that we've talked about that we know have moved to 2024.
GTA 6 coming next year. Man, I hope Stalker 2 is actually Q1.
If it comes out next year, dude.
Yeah.
If it comes out next year, I'll just say it. I will donate $1,000 to. I'll probably donate it anyway because I'm saying it. Oh, do you? You want to bet and win versus donating? You are a selfish prick. I'm just joking. I love it. I'm like, I'll donate to cancer, and you're like, no, I want your money, dude.
No. Okay, no. Whoever loses donates. How about that?
Okay, and so we'll go with 500. Whoever loses donates. It will be delayed until 2025 mid or late. What do you think? You want to take that? You can win if it's.
But you have the way more believable. If it's
June or prior of 2025, I'll let you win. You think that's fair? Man. 2025 June. You should take that bet. Even I'm saying you should take that bet because but yeah, I will bet you.
Yeah, I'll take that bet.
All right. Anybody in chat, feel free to lodge this down.
If it's earlier than 2025 June, I will win, and if it's later than 2025 June, you will win.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a bet I love because if I'm wrong, boom, I get a cool game. And if I'm wrong, or if I'm right, or sorry, the other way around. If I'm right, I just get to donate to somebody I would want to donate to. So okay, cool. There's some people talking about layoffs. We'll talk about that in a second because I want to get to the Portal Pro review. But the first thing I want to do is read patrons. Lovely patrons have been doing some super chats in Patreon, which has been nice, raising their levels or whatever because they want questions answered that are bigger. So I'm going to take out my mint here. $20 super chat. This is also from Sea Monkeys. He did too. Hey, Karak, longtime patron. Your leak about Kojima turned out to be half right, but it isn't Metal Gear. But Kojima and MS haven't talked about their game lately. any reason why. No, I don't know why. And they haven't, have they?
They haven't since that first, not really reveal. It was just like, hey, I'm working with MS. Yeah, that's it.
Do you
but,
feel, can I ask you something though? Do you feel
What's
like
up?
whenever Kojima says he's working with MS, it sounds a little bit like when Square gives the side hand job to MS and is like, we're still working with them and there might be a Final Fantasy game like Final Fantasy 3 might come out on the Xbox. There's something about Kojima and Square that make me feel like they don't really want to work with the Xbox.
You know, that's interesting because I feel that way about if any Japanese dev works with because Microsoft was never historically like super Japanese. Sony was usually more Japanese, but now it's switched because all Sony is about is action adventure games. And then I feel like Microsoft is more everything else. You know what I mean?
At least right now, yeah. I think that's fair.
But yeah, and Game Pass has like pretty much Sega. Sega works a lot with them.
Yes,
right?
Sega does, except
Yakuza's and Persona.
Well, you're right. Persona wasn't for the longest period of time, but yes, yeah. And Sonic. I believe Sonic has never been on a Game Pass free yet. I thought somebody said that in our Discord. I don't track Sonic as much, but they did say that. Good question. But a half right leak is a full wrong leak. So yeah, it was half right, but it was, I mean, technically it's just not even right until we get
survival horror. The Last of Us is not survival horror. Kinda. No, actually kinda. I'll give you that.
Are you sure he's not talking about
crafting and shit?
Oh, he is talking about that. I thought he was talking about Death Stranding.
I guess in a sense it is a little bit.
A little
survival
bit.
Horror.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, especially if you turn the difficulty up, feels survival.
It's just in my head, it's not like survival horror is usually like the level kind of puzzly nature of like getting a key from there and using it to open this. That gives you like a picture that you got to investigate the picture to like tear it up and get a key, and I don't know, backtracking and shit.
Next up is Takes Pig Donger, $10 member. This is member for a YouTube member. Thank you again, guys, for supporting the channel. Getting really tired of podcasts with people just spouting rumors. This is another rumor one. Why do these people do it and then roll it back with soft updates later? Because I don't think there's a negative. We talked about this in something else in gaming right now. There isn't a repercussion for some things. And like, if you want podcast numbers, you can just be like, I'm leaking this, and I heard this from somebody. And it's one of the reasons why we've stopped. Because just like after a while, it's just like, I don't... by the way, and I'm not saying anybody who does... I mean, you do what you want, but I think that there isn't a negative... What's negative? You just say, I heard it. Oh, I guess it was wrong?
Yeah. And it depends on like how much weight you give it, like how much... if you stake your reputation on something or not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there is some, like, I staked it on a couple things that were luckily right, and almost staked it on one that has turned out to be, at least from what I can tell,
or like
wrong.
The new Assassin's Creed is going to be
that
Aztec.
Is for sure.
That was like a complete joke.
That is for sure.
You manifested it.
I don't know if I We'll have to see. Did you also see the game that was shown later on IGN that looked like an Aztec Assassin's Creed game?
No.
Have you seen that one? There is a game, by the way, look this up. There's a full game being made that looks like and so I had to email the contact and go, oh shit, is this the game you were talking about? And I mistook what you said, because dude, if you go look, it will blow your mind. It looks like, remember back in the day, arcade days, you'd have Tato and Data East, somebody do like Double Dragon and the other person would do like Dragon's Double, and it would be almost identical. That's what this looks like when you see it, and it's nuts. You should go check this game out. It looks like Assassin's Creed Aztec, so much so, like I said, I was like, oh, maybe I misread what you were saying. I was like, no. So anyway, no, there's no repercussions, and you get your, it is what it is, and I think people get excited. We want to talk about this stuff, right? That's another thing, like, pants and shit. $5 super chat. Karak, break down the sections of streaming game power for me, if you can. Break down the sections of streaming game power for me, if you can. Also, thanks for doing the Discord. I've been a member for 5 years, and seeing so many long-term members makes it feel like a family and shows all the trust people have. Also, hello to Absy, Go Burns, Silver, Johnny, Reg, and Josh.
Go Burns.
Yeah, we got to get Go Burns back on, man. Like, I love that guy.
It's a blast from the past.
That is a blast from the past. I got to contact him because I think he's still doing mostly Rockstar stuff.
I'm sure he'll have a lot to say when GTA 6 gets announced.
Break down the sections
like
of streaming game power for me, if you can. Break down the sections of streaming game. We're just going to say
the streaming services, or no?
He might. We'll do 2 services. Best one, GeForce Now. Second, Xbox and Sony. First would have been Stadia when it was running. It actually had some really good stuff, but it was a disaster. Luna, I don't like. I don't know if you've done that one. The Amazon or Twitch Luna, what it's called.
I've never. Yeah,
it's not great. If you also mean break down the power or the sections of streaming game power, you might actually mean like why am I so hot on it a lot of times? And I would say the big thing is I'm playing
on the bed.
That's what he means. Break down the power of the different consoles, the handhelds. That is exactly what he means.
Okay.
I think he meant to say break down the sections of streaming game power. Maybe that's what he means. But if that is what you mean, you've got your top tier, which is like the Legion and above, and they're in the 600 and above range. You have your mid tier, which is your below that to 300. Then you have your low tier, which are Android devices, all the way down to 77, as I saw yesterday, and that includes the joystick and everything, up to, you can get them for $399, but if you're buying an Android streaming device for $399...
Jesus.
Yeah, like, you're probably a different segment that, like, I don't talk to because I don't like. I'm just joking. But I like
luxury streaming device.
Yeah. Wonderman 7.2, what is a game technology that is impressive? I've got mine already. Dude, I gotta say this.
So
interactive maps on the web. Holy shit.
I love those. I
was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, dude, and I zoomed into this map and it had every icon without having to go into the menu. And I was like looking, I had my tablet and I was like pointed that, and it not only that, they showed you what fucking quest was involved, what level you should be, what items may drop, and I was like, dude, that's man. Awesome.
People I love community made stuff where it's just they put it up there for the community, don't get paid, and just they're really good, man. I use them like Tarkov and DayZ. I used to do that a lot for DayZ because there's no map in the game. And you can write notes in places.
Do you have a technology that's just like impressive right now? I mean, it could be audio.
And games?
Yeah, in games, anything that's just impressed you. Could be streaming a Spider-Man 2. I think that was pretty impressive.
Obviously, I continue to find DLSS and frame gen incredibly impressive. I think that's like one of the coolest things because for a while we were just increasing cores, increasing VRAM or RAM, and increasing like size. It was always bigger, and it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna think of new ways to like optimize stuff. And the newest one that Intel just put out, which optimizes the efficiency cores for games, is really impressive, except I think they're locking it only to 14th gen CPUs. And I don't think there's a hardware... NVIDIA has a hardware constraint, and that's why like you don't get
the
frame gen in like 30 series, the tensor cores and shit. But I haven't looked into it that much, but I think for Intel there is no hard. Maybe they're testing it on the 14th gen. Maybe they'll bring it to the 13th and 12th. But yeah, for now it's only on the 14th gen. But it increases performance by 15 to 20%. So it's
I was
incredible.
Stunned by those numbers, and also unfortunately stunned by the few games it supports currently. I would like to see more games supported.
It's like DLSS where games have to implement it. It's not, you can't just turn it on like flick it on every game.
Yeah, I think that part's crazy. It's a really good I mean, there's a bunch of technologies. Dude, accessibility controllers are phenomenal to me. The idea that somebody can go and play a game and like just, they may have some issue with mobility or whatever, and the ability for them to grab a controller and be like, boom, I'm putting a kick on there, like a kick drum, be able to use that to reload. I just think that's awesome, because then more people who may want to play can jump into it. And having known a lot of people who maybe have a little bit of a difficulty with the gamepad but don't have a PC, the idea that PlayStation and Xbox both have them, and PlayStation's done well, but Xbox still is lead. I mean, Those guys really seem like they're dialed into understanding the hardware parts. Maybe not the software, because I think Sony's software has some great accessibility stuff. I mean, you see it in a lot of, where you start streaming, you go into options, and you're like, and you're just like, oh my God, there's too many options here. But for somebody who needs it, it's great.
There's also a very
go for it.
game specific, really, really cool tricks and stuff where it's like work smart, not hard. I think Red Dead 2, the reason it looked as good as it did but ran on the PS4 is because they used that like tech where they kind of re-render the background of where you are to like a lesser lesser intensive stuff like images and shit, but you just don't notice. I think that stuff is always cool. What they did with a lot of anime AI back in the day with Fear, a lot of really
that was
cool
very
shit.
Cool. Halo's AI, all those are awesome. They're old. Admittedly, we just jumped back almost a decade. And I think even if you don't, you could say the streaming tech that Insomniac did with Spider-Man is like, we're there for NVMEs now. And Forspoken, I don't like the game, but on the PC, Forspoken loaded in a millisecond, man. You'd open up, you'd say, hey, I want to open my save game in Forspoken, and be like, bunk, bunk, and it was up and running. And it always feels good when there's, especially if you die a lot. I didn't, but if you did, that would be a bonus. Boot times are bonuses if you boot your PC a lot. I don't.
Yeah, but turn on fast boot. Turn off fast
Turn off fast boot. Fast boot's the opposite of fast boot, right?
Turn off fast boot. You don't need it, especially if you're on an SSD and an NVMe. You don't need it at all. It just causes issues. Just fucking turn it off.
Really sad, Brad. Karak, I'm still coming down from the high last week. I jumped into the patron voice chat, and you were there talking games and movies. But important to me was that you answered my questions, kept the chat going, asking everybody to let each other talk. You made a random weekday fun for me. Thank you. I'm pretty sure I know who you are because I think you DM'd me. But it was funny that we have to warn everybody prior when they jump in and be like, dude, if you do not interrupt, we'll just talk about movies or something. Like, you've got to speak up because we will just assume that if you do not, like, sort of inject yourself. But yeah, we had an
especially
awesome time.
Both Karak and Sleeve are there. You're a shit out of luck, dude. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
now that's
start talking about this
I
actor's grandmother's sister and shit, dude.
We get into the weeds in there, man. We'll be talking. We did a horror chat a couple days ago, and it was only 3 of us, but we were like, what about this special effect? And I was like, a lot of people outside were looking at that chat going like, what are these two nerds doing? That's what's fun. I See Monkeys. What's your favorite musical instrument?
Saxophone.
Saxophones. Man. Saxophones. Bill Clinton made saxophones sexy again. Saxophone for middle-aged white guys. Yeah, dude. It's just before your time, but so when he was running for president, he was known as a young guy's sort of person, right? And which makes sense because he was banging people. Like, he had all the young guy problems too. But he came out on Arsenio Hall and played the saxophone, and he went to a couple other places, and there is a very workmanship fandom around saxophones and mouth, like the wind instruments that are metal, like, it can be any of those. It could be a fucking tuba, and it worked, man. It's like, even for me, I saw him, and there's some things that sort of people see the mouth on a saxophone.
Duke Silver.
There's that. Duke Silver, right. And he's just blasting away. And I remember watching it going, that guy's pretty good. I sort of dig that guy. And it does work. For me, it would be, and I'm trying, dude, this is going to, I mean, piano is incredible, but violin, no, cello. Sorry, above violin. Yeah.
Love the cello.
But
dude, I love, when they I think Cyberpunk did that so well is when you're in that, like, the first Johnny Silverhand kind of moment, and they layer the the main track, the main Johnny Silverhand track, the electronic, super heavy electronic with the cello. So good. It gives it that Witcher vibe, because Witcher used a lot of cello as well. I love it. Yeah,
dude, and string stuff, as somebody who's tried guitar, I can passably play. Not well, but I mean, I can figure it out. But like, I watch a violin, and I'm just like, I don't understand how you're even holding your hand that way. It looks uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. If you watch somebody really playing a violin, you're like, God damn, that looks like the worst position I hurt my neck looking like this for too long. They're like this the entire life, you know, and the stuff
and
that
they're
they can
very
do.
expensive, dude.
And they're very expensive. Yeah.
Dude, I
And
was like, I would jam
expensive.
with this guy. Like, I would be on the keys, he'd be on the violin and stuff. And I would think, I thought it was like, yeah, like a couple $1,000s or whatever. He's like, this thing right here in my hands, it's passed down from my mom's mom or whatever. Like 20,000-30,000 fucking dollars that thing is worth. And then he's like, yo, you want to hold it? I'm like, no, I'm not. No,
might as well pull your Picasso down from the wall and pass it to an idiot. Yeah, to be like, here, you want to hold this? And I'm holding it by the frame. It's like
that.
Yeah, nah.
No.
I've had friends who've had really nice cars, you know, in like the 200,000 range. Not friends, like a bunch, but one or two who are well off and they've had these cars. And I'm like, dude, you know, do you want to drive it? And
I'm not
like,
getting in that.
I'm not. It's like, unless we went to a track and I signed off an insurance claim that was like, I don't have to pay for this, because everybody's nice until you wrap their $200,000 car around another car. And now all of a sudden the gloves come off. Let's see. Brandon Royale, $6 super chat. Hey guys, you guys helped me to get through my shift at work. Just wondering, what do you think GTA 6 needs that GTA 5 does not have currently to be a better game?
So everything they implemented in Red Dead 2, I don't know how well they're going to implement in GTA 6, but I would love to see more of that meticulous NPC scripting and random events that could happen just from exploration. It's just that exploration in a modern city would be, it's just a completely different thing than exploration in kind of like a developing you know, older kind of where there's only a few locations separated with forest. It kind of, if at every turn or corner there's like a thing, it might be overwhelming. I don't know how they would handle that.
I would like to agree, man. Yeah. I don't want to see it every corner. I do not want to see that. Not every corner.
No. Yeah. I don't want the Far Cry 2-second thing, but I wonder how they would handle that. Yeah.
I mean, I know with Watch Dogs, when I watched their GDC, they were saying that they have an event counter that's basically like, you know, has it been this long since this? And then it checks different events and it sort of decides like, there's a chance of this event. It doesn't even say for sure run this event. It's just like, okay, there's a higher chance of this event happening, and then that just organically happens. And it's a soft DPS almost, where it's like, it can happen, may not, and by the time it might have happened, another check might run around and say, okay, a kidnapping's going to happen. But yeah, technology I would like to see for GTA 5.
Would you like hunting and stuff in it?
I would, but I it's not required. I just like the idea of hunting in a game.
And fishing, because it's Miami Beach, you know.
Yeah. Fishing for alligators, fishing for Florida people. I don't really know if there's anything missing from GTA 5 other than, and you talked about this, I know it's not, you're not as big of a fan as I am, but I would like to see it first person day one.
Okay.
I'm not really, I mean, it's already got the teleport. I love the 3-person. I know this one's only got 2, which is fine.
Yeah.
I will say it better allow you to switch between the 2 whenever you want. I don't want Spider-Man. Spider-Man did frustrate me. By the time I was done with Spider-Man 2, there was a lot of times where I was like, I would have just liked to have been Peter during this time, or Miles during this time. Was it?
Game,
I got a lot of Miles, but it's because I was playing Peter. So I think I just picked up whenever it said I had to switch out. I was like, come on, man. I don't, you know, like I'm playing my game. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to switch.
You know what? I'd like to, since they hired 5M, aside from like the online RP stuff
for the role playing.
I would love to see those role playing mechanics added into the single player, where you can interact a lot with the game world and have like a lot of different jobs where you could just be like, hey, I just want to serve burgers right now or something. You know what I mean? That'd be cool. You know, kind of like, you know, I mean,
that's really dissonant. If it's got a true quest line, but
no, not even like that. Like like imagine you just start off the game, you don't have much money, you want to make a name for yourself, and other than like the main story stuff, you know, you start taking like just random jobs, like you're a waiter and you know, more Yakuza minigame type stuff, but in a more realistic fashion. And you know what I mean? Yeah.
You know what I'd like? You know how in Yakuza you go in and you always know there'll be a virtual fighter and a pachinko machine or whatever it's called, pachinko, or I can't pronounce it, but
UFO catcher and shit.
If you
too.
go into
Yeah.
an arcade in GTA 6, I hope it has a bunch of arcade games. I don't know how they do
Yeah.
it licensing wise, but I think it
True.
would be amazing to go in
Max
and
Payne.
yeah, or a game within a game, which those always some games do it, but Yakuza blew
Crash
me away.
Bandicoot
Where
and
Virtual Fighter
Uncharted.
was in there. Yeah, Crash Bandicoot and Uncharted.
Yeah.
Owen, $14 super chat. Morning, fellas. Just woke up for work. Don't have time to listen now, but we'll get my fix later. Just want to say thanks to the whole potty crew. Second podcast makes my week that much easier. I will say I also want to give a huge shout out because I wasn't aware of this. I knew we had trucker fans, but the big one are DoorDash, Grubhub, and Instacart. The number of new patrons that are Instacart drivers is ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, it's like every day somebody's like, yeah, dude, I drive Instacart and I picked up on the Wednesday podcast or I picked up on a review. And I'm like, I don't know if more people are doing it or they just found us that way. But yeah, I love that. Wannabe Dev, $25 super chat. Who can save Reg from the dark place? Nobody. But I talked to Reg yesterday. His development stuff's going good. He should, I think... Last time he contacted me, he wanted to come on, but he was on vacation, didn't know if he'd get back, and I don't think he did because I didn't hear from him. But I did hear from him yesterday. It sounds like it's going really well. I don't want to spoil something because there's one event he has planned, but I forgot to ask him if I can talk about it. But we'll save him. We'll save Reg. We'll get Reg from the dark place at some point here in the future. And let's finish up these and do the Portal review. Next up, we do have another super chat, or this is from patron Melissa P. What's the roughest game that you played this year? Rough. Oh, duh. Speaking of that, I do have the rough shirts available now on the patron. Star Wars Survivor, huh?
Yeah.
Just because, like you expected it to be better. It truly was broken. Better.
It was kind of broken. Even on PS5, I was getting a ton of what's the opposite of VSync?
Tearing.
A ton of tearing, a ton of stutter. And I thought the combat was just very poor and not well done. So yeah, what about you?
I mean, I did have to play Gollum.
Oh right? Shit, did you?
Yeah,
did you review
Gollum.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Shit. How was that?
So I mean it was bad.
Yeah.
And it was boring bad, which was different than Redfall, which was interesting bad. If that makes sense. Like you're playing Redfall going, the fuck? Like some stuff here makes sense. Like
wait, I played Redfall. Wait, I did play Redfall. Oh shit, yeah. That changes things.
So would you say Redfall was worse than
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially that AI. Yeah.
Yeah, Redfall was rough. But yeah, having to play Gollum, I mean, it's hard to like come out of Gollum and not say it was rough. Like truly rough. And what's weird about Gollum, dude, is that it didn't, even with a ton of money, there wasn't much going on there. Like Redfall, you could tell. I think you look at Redfall and you know exactly, you're like Dark Tides, Vermintides, you can, blah, 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 you can, but with Gollum, I remember when they first announced Gollum, everybody was like, Gollum? That's an odd character.
What game is it going to be?
What is this going to be? Stealth. Oh, and it didn't pan out. Last super chat before we do this. Some love for the great content. No joke. Best gaming podcast. Thanks. Keep it up.
Thanks,
That's
man.
B. Chisma. Huff 2000. Huff.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hungry? I'm just using the H. I don't know what Huff is. All right, let's talk about
Huff.
the portal. Let's review this portal.
Is it amazing? Is it the best thing ever made?
I'm muting Absy so he cannot talk. I'm just joking. So the portal, so everybody knows, I do have it. Let me do a little disclaimer. So first of all, I got the device from them as well as the earbuds. So I should also state, if you think that affects me, you should leave now or go check out my Sony reviews for some games or my Microsoft reviews for companies that give me stuff. I rarely accept it, but I wanted to cover this one. And I'll give it away to a patron like I give away a lot of the stuff. Don't know if I'll get a taker because it's a very specific device. But I'm sure somebody out there will want it. So the patron, the portal. So the disclaimer for this, and I sort of put some of this kind of stuff down. I'm going to talk about the tech, concrete. There's no discussion around the tech. What is the tech? And then I'm going to explain my interaction with this tech and how the interaction worked out. You guys can see a bunch of reviews. Some of them completely hate it. Some of them love it. Some are in the middle. That's sort of the way this is going to be. But I want to make sure I point this out when I talk about this that at first I want to talk about the tech because I saw some people trying to arbitrarily already categorize my discussion by saying, oh, well, it's just for the portal's just for people who have $200. At that point, you're out the window because there's going to be people who have the 200 where it doesn't fit them, does fit them. We're not talking about that. We're not going to arbitrarily make it a category so it makes somebody happy about their life. It is just what it is, and that's going to piss some people off for some of the stuff I have to say. So, first, the good. Dude, it is exactly what you think, man. It is a PS5 controller, right? Stretched.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, that's why it's comfortable. Because it's got the full joysticks. It's all of the stuff that you like if you like a PlayStation controller, which I do like. I don't like it as much as the Xbox, but I like it a lot. Dude, comfort-wise, it's awesome because it's also light, super comfortable, haptics, all that stuff works. So you can turn up your haptics, you can have your pull triggers, all that kind of stuff. It is exactly what it looks like. There is no question that they knew exactly what they were doing, which is just to stretch and put a panel in the center. And by the way, for $200, I want to make this clear, that is all you are getting. You are getting nothing but a screen in the gamepads. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of how it does what it does and just what it does as a whole. So technically, it is a light device, very comfortable. Got one USB on the bottom, USB-C, so you can charge it up. It also has a headphone port if you want to use those and you don't want to buy the $200 earbuds that cost the same as this fucking thing.
Yeah, because you can't use other Bluetooth headphones, right?
Right. You cannot use other Bluetooth, but we'll get to the negatives in a second. So you've got this system. It's touchscreen. It's great. Screen, pretty good. It's LCD. It is also glossy. And there's a reason why I bring that up. But it's a glossy, nice screen. Gets pretty bright. You can also turn it down, but you can't turn it down a ton. I know, I think Reg is the one who runs his TV at 0 brightness. Now, I don't know what dark cave that dude lives in, but at 0 brightness, I would not be able to see anything. This does not go that dim, but it goes pretty dim. It connected super easy. You basically just go in, you identify it, your PlayStation says, do you want to do remote play? All the stuff that you've probably seen in that form factor, in that shape. Everything feels pretty much identical. The trigger pulls, bumpers feel pretty good. There's a volume control. It gets pretty loud, but I will say that the speakers are facing up, and that is also an issue. When speakers face up, I think for a lot of people, there's going to be a situation where you're going to want it louder. For a handheld. And currently, because of what this is, there is no ability to sideload an Android app and crank it or to add equalizer or something like that. I personally noticed one thing that could be the streaming or it could be the device, and that's that the color gamut is pretty tight. So it's there's not as much saturation. And I noticed this distinctly when I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a very saturated, almost cartoony game. In fact, some people turn down the saturation because it can look almost too green or too orange, or, the colors are pretty wide. I definitely noticed that was not the case with this. This was a little bit more desaturated, which I actually liked. I know some people are not going to like it. But did it work? Yes. Getting it connected worked. What does it do? It streams games from your PlayStation, and that is it. Nothing else. So I know a lot of people are still wondering about the cloud. Be aware, the Sony president a couple days ago did an announcement, and he said there is nothing stopping us from doing remote cloud streaming. But for $200 right now, you are not buying it for that. It does not do it. And the reason why I bring that up is I personally believe if it was able to do it without issues, it would have already been doing it because they're charging $200 right now. There's no reason to hold off one entire segment because it does stream properly from the device exactly the way it should. Those are the positives. So, first of all, 30 feet away is about your max, which doesn't sound like a small amount, doesn't sound like a large amount, but it's about 1/4 of the length my phone will pick up signal.
And do over Wi-Fi?
You do it over Wi-Fi, but you get about 25 to 30 feet away, and it starts dropping frames. It does not have a very powerful Wi-Fi chip to receive.
Oh, so sorry, just for clarification. So not 20 feet away from your PS5, 20 feet away from any Wi-Fi.
No, 20 feet away from your PS5.
So you can't be like outside of the house and just connect over Wi-Fi?
No, you could no. So well, okay, so it still goes through that. It's that the actual unit's receiver chip is weak. That's the difference. So it doesn't matter where you're getting the signal from. We can just pretend the PS5 doesn't exist. If you're far away from your router, not very far, it already starts dropping frames. And that's one of the issues I have with this design, because I think it's the design. So when you look at a phone, like my phone here with my ACG thing, it's just a little thin bezel, and then you have your network chip. One of the consoles that has problems with its network being very strong is the Switch.
Right.
The Switch is a very thick console when you look at where its actual chip is compared to the plastic, and that's what I think might be going on with this. So the picture, it suggests 5 megs minimum. Now, if anybody understands 60 FPS divided by 5 megs, that is a terrible looking picture. They suggest an average of 15. I have about 500. So, like, I made sure it's on its own separate channel. PlayStation was on its separate channel. Portal was on its separate channel. And I tested this. And it just isn't super smooth. It attempts to be, and there are times where it feels local. And I have a mirror so I can see it. One nice thing is it still pipes in the PlayStation View through the HDMI. So you can actually test on your television, you can test the input lag, and there is some input lag. Nothing that I think would kill anybody, but I wouldn't play Call of Duty on it. It would definitely be, I think that would be noticeable. But it's 5 or 15 for average, and then what I've noticed is it is very bitty, especially when you're doing Horizon. Horizon's a very good example of this, or any game with mist in the trees. Valhalla, Horizon, Spider-Man. When they have a lot of the alpha transparencies, they have a lot of the different special effects. Elden Ring. Yeah. You get this pixelization that does not show up on a normal device when you can adjust the bitrate above 30. So if you go to 40, 50, 60, you start seeing a lot less. So I think this is probably around the 30 maxed, which is what I expected. But I'm a little disappointed because I would love for them to just say you can adjust it. Like maybe say, we see this with GeForce Now and stuff where they say low, medium, high, or auto. I would love to, custom. I would love to have some adjustments there because the PlayStation Portal just doesn't have very many adjustments. It's got your network, it's got brightness, and the rest is like looking at what your PlayStation 5 is doing, and that's pretty much it. You try to stream to it. I want to make sure I point out I did try to stream the cloud to it, and it immediately gives you an error and says you're not allowed to look at this content on this device. And keeps it on your PlayStation 5. But I would say anybody who's streamed knows what I'm talking about, that the bit rate for a 1080 screen at 60 FPS is not high enough currently to give you a really great looking picture all the time. I noticed some stuttering. I also saw some reviews where they said at 30% or lower for the battery, it starts to drop frames dramatically. And it does. And that is odd to me. And most likely a power saving of some kind. So the only thing I would suggest is if you're buying a Portal, turn the brightness down to 50 or 60. Your battery is going to last longer anyway. And maybe that power saving won't turn on, but I did see some footage of people streaming at around the 30% on the battery, and they started to get drops in their frame rate and bittiness. That does occur. It's definitely a thing. But you don't need it at 100. I think it's comfortable at 75. I brought up that it's got a shiny screen. This is a problem. There's no middle button on this. So there's that middle button that you use for menus and shit isn't on this. It's the screen itself that you touch. And I want to make sure people are understanding. I'm not bitching about this. I just want to point this out. That means one part of your screen, your shiny screen, is going to look like you sneezed on it within an hour. Because you're touching it all the time. And it's a shiny, great. I like the screen. It's not the best screen ever. It's not an OLED. But I was playing it going, oh, this is great. Oh, because I was playing Horizon, which Horizon has you use that to get to the map. And I was doing it. And then I realized the light I can see because it's shiny. You can see lights. So you really want to play with no no room lights on. And that was something I noticed. I did like it. You just touch a screen and then it pops up and you touch it again and now it's that menu button. I don't know how that's going to work in some games where maybe that menu button needs to be pushed at a high speed. But I personally, unless you remember one, I don't remember many games where you have to hit that button at lightning speed. It would be sort of ridiculous because it's already a weird placement on your...
What did you say the battery life was?
So the battery life is all over the place. It can be about 4.5 all the way up to about 7 or 8, depending on the brightness. And strangely enough, from what I've noticed, when you get below the 30, it seems to eat up battery more. So it's like when you get to that 30% and things start chugging, I noticed that the battery seems to drop much more quickly at the low end than I had seen in other devices, which pretty much just run until they're done. I was not unhappy with it. It's a streaming device. It lasted longer than... What do we got right now? The ROG, Legion, those things are ultra powerful. This is just a screen. Yeah, it lasted fine. It's not great, but it lasted less what I expected.
The only issue I have is it's a big ask for $200. Like if I'm paying $200 to get this streaming device that only streams games from my PlayStation over Wi-Fi, I would expect it to really hone in and be okay, there's literally 2 ms input lag somehow or something where because that's a deal breaker. Another deal breaker would be only being able to use their Bluetooth. Come on, everybody has Bluetooth headsets at this point.
We'll get to that in a second because there's even more to that.
Oh God. Okay.
So is there latency? Yes, barely. It gets worse as you get farther away. And when I say farther away, I'm going to have people I know listening going, I bet you he went to the other side of the fucking block. No, I didn't. I'm close and within sight of the router and within sight of the PlayStation. I set those aside. Interference? No, none. I live in a cul-de-sac. Luckily enough, I was able to turn... I know how to test the wireless stuff, so I just turned everything off, had it on its own channels. I really do believe that chip that takes in the signal, the receiver chip on this, is just... It reminds me of the Switch when I got my Switch hacked. Because I remember when I got it hacked, people warned me, if you want to do GeForce Now, you got to be close to your router. This chip is not the greatest, but here's the killer. And this is it's a travesty. It's a travesty. If you're doing anything on your PlayStation 5, like downloading an update or any games, turn it off. You cannot play it. You cannot play this, even if you're hardwired in. I don't know what's going on. I'm hardwired into my PlayStation 5 for networking, and I tried to download an update, and I was downloading Red Dead because I want to play it on this thing, and this thing dropped to 1 resolution, half a frame. And I saw other people talking about this before my review. The reason why I didn't do a Monday review is because, I'm going to be honest, some of the stuff I saw was bothersome enough. I was like, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to cover it in the podcast. Because a video would have done me much better, monetarily or whatever. It would those kind of things are great. But I wanted to cover it more because I wanted to see this. And that is definitely a situation. If you are wireless on your PlayStation 5 and you try to play this when you're downloading, don't. It's not going to work at all. If you are wired, feel free to try, but a lot of us have been wired and tried, and there's still something going on within the PlayStation 5, whether it be writing to the drive, whether it be CPU overhead, what have you. I've still had issues on this to the point to where it was not playable. There was just no desire to play it when it was doing anything other than streaming. Any downloading.
Any update, anything.
Yeah, and I've got the newest update. Now, can they fix that? I personally believe it makes no sense, and they can. I think that they can fix that part, but I will also say this. It's just my opinion. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox's networking chips suck. I'm sort of on the record. I don't like the way when you play online and you have your Xbox online, there's just things I noticed there that maybe I don't even notice on a phone. It's almost like they went with the lowest common denominator network chips on the consoles, and I definitely have noticed that. Also, with this device, there is no adjustments whatsoever for bitrate, no adjustments for FPS, yet you want to do that in your PlayStation 5 if you're going to do that. And I would suggest you try out some 30 FPS games on it. 60 FPS, that bitrate is just really low. And it's noticeable on a screen this big. This is an awesome screen for size-wise and comfort-wise. I love it. Because you can just sit back and you're like, this is comfort. It fits, like if you're laying It fits perfect. It's light. It's all the things I want from the form factor, everything. But they absolutely need to have some options in here. They do, because I'm telling you, the lowest common denominator router that's $70, $50 on sale will run this way beyond what it's currently running. And this is something we've talked about before, where the PlayStation and Xbox don't really do streaming very well. You can use PS Play, which is a software app. You can run it on any Android device. You can turn up your bit rate, and if you turn it up too high, both the Xbox and the PlayStation start to chug, because they're even though they have these encoders and stuff, it's still taking some CPU power. So just for a test, PS Play, all my devices have PS Play on it. That's a $5 app. You can also use the PlayStation's official app for streaming. Bar none, they were better. And that's just the honest truth. So bar none, the free app as well as the paid for app were better than the streaming quality on this. That being said, I think this will be updated to have that kind of stuff, because it just doesn't make sense they wouldn't.
Yeah. The thing for me is that I would, what would be awesome, man. I don't think, maybe it'll happen. No, I don't think it'll happen. What would be awesome, and what would be like a really, really cool use case for it, would be nail a streaming service, include the streaming service in the controller, and allow people who don't own PS5s to be able to buy it and use it as a streaming service to stream PlayStation games. Imagine, I don't know if they'll do that. I don't think they will, but that would be awesome. That would be a cool use case for it.
And it is, because if you look at current competition, there is a boatload of competition at this size with Android cheaper devices.
Because it's half a PS5. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, money-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at 200 and below, there's about 17 different devices that are around this size that are Android devices. So they run Android, but they also will let you do all these streams. They also will let you adjust your bit rate. And many of them have a higher refresh rate, all that kind of stuff. We won't get in the weeds on that. But I'll say competition-wise, there's 3 levels of competition. There's the piecemeal competition, which I've joked about on the podcast, where I've made my own controller claws, or you buy a claw from Amazon for $9 and you put your cell phone screen on there. Cell phone's not going to be as big as this, but that's your super cheap. $30 can get you, a claw to connect your 360 controller and just play your games. And I think that's the big problem, man, is because once you start looking at $200 for the competition, this is so dedicated, dude. It's so dedicated. It's so locked down. You go into let me see if I can go into, let me see if it's got any battery life left, because I've been playing the hell out of it.
Is the Apple, basically, of the game.
So here's your screen. It's a nice screen. It does nothing.
Right.
This is it. But when you do there's your options. That's it. Airplane mode.
What?
Brightness. Yeah. And then when you hit settings.
That's your options.
When you hit settings, it's quite literally just switching the network, looking at the system stuff, looking at the controller stuff, and then adjusting your brightness or signing out. That is it for that. It doesn't allow for any adjustments whatsoever. And that's because Sony, I'm sure, wants to close it off and say, we want to guarantee a certain result from a certain bit rate. But I'm telling you right now, that bit rate's too low. And there's going to be people who will tell you Xbox Cloud's perfect on its bit rate. It's not. It's not. I like it, and it's not. But you can look at it and genuinely, and I've had arguments with some pretty big websites where they're all, it's perfect, it looks perfect. And I'm like, here's a native, here's what you get, and here's what you get for a $3 claw from Amazon and your cell phone. It is not identical. This is a very discrete device. It does nothing but this. And unfortunately, it does not do it well. That's the biggest problem, is the one discrete thing this is supposed to do.
That's the thing.
Is deliver to you a good, solid 60 FPS picture. It's their bitrate setting. It has nothing to do with the hardware. This is Sony's software, and that's why right now I think they will fix this, because there's nothing that's stopping them from turning it up 10 or 20 before maybe you're asking the PS5 to do more than maybe it should. I can choke the Xbox pretty easily with my apps by cranking up the bitrate. But currently right now, I have talked to some people who really loved it, And when I asked them, I was like, what was your picture quality? What did you get? Oh, it was definitely noticeable. And I'm like, all right, so what are we wanting then? If we're not wanting this to do what it's supposed to do, why are we rating it at all? So as a device for what it's supposed to do, it's not great. It's not great yet. I think that they can patch it, and I'm actually excited for them to do it because here I like it. It's comfortable, and I would probably play this more than the Switch, but not currently. I want to be able to download, well, hardwired minimum. I would certainly think at whatever bitrate this is, where they ask for 15 average, so you double it to say that's their high. You can't tell me a normal network chip that's $5 from eBay or whatever can't run both things at the same time. There's got to be a way for them to balance this and let a person experience it. Because do you know how many times it came up? 10. Where I was trying to play a game and I wanted to download a game to test it on this, and then this became unusable.
Dude,
And
it's just a huge ask where the use case is so narrow and it's so discrete, and it's very, very, very focused on one thing, but there's way too many buts for that. I thought at least, like, even though I found it very stupid since they announced it and said what it was going to do, I thought it would do what that is at least very well and without any buts. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's, dude, there's so much I like.
The form
factor,
just
and
the whole idea of it being a controller with a screen in the middle
Yep.
is way better than like this obviously Joy-Con shit or like weird, random smaller stuff.
Dude, it's so comfortable, and I didn't mind the button in the whatever. You're gonna have greasy fingers. Anybody who's used these is gonna have greasy fingers. But when you talk at the $200 price point, you're now talking open box devices, or you're talking devices you can get off Amazon that are, I saw one that's $139. The Odins are anywhere from $129 to $200. Those will do a bunch of other stuff, and what's most important, they'll do identical to this, and you can increase your bit rate. And when that's what this is, let me explain to people so they know. Whenever you get, if you're looking at especially even a 30 FPS, but when you're looking at a screen when there's a lot of effects, 3D effects, smoke, explosions, what have you, what happens when you move is that bit rate tries to guess where that pixel is, and there's a motion. It's not even blur. I would love to be able to call it motion blur. It's worse than that. It's motion blur. Right? Yeah. And so if you've played a streaming device and you turn and you see that, it's almost like a moire effect. It's like the worst chromatic aberration.
You are really selling.
It's because it's disappointing, because I like the hardware. This is Sony, man. Like PSVR, you get it, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of good. Oh, there's no games.
Yeah, like PSVR has a good form, and like all the things you mentioned, but it's also just kind of useless. So
and I got to play so much. Yeah, macro blocking. People aren't going to know what that means, but that is exactly it. But it's so crazy, dude, because you get it. It's light. It charges fast. It's like you plug in your headset and it works. Doesn't work with super powerful headsets. It doesn't have a big amp in it, so be aware of that. If you've got a headset that requires like a good wattage, you're going to want to use a USB DAC, or you're going to want, or even just a 3.5 amp. But it's got all of this stuff that feels so great, guys. Like, it feels so great, and I don't think people realize comfort is, for me at least, as high as resolution or like picture quality. Those two are sort of, identical to me. If it's uncomfortable, I've told Abzi, I love my One X Player Pro, but the thing weighs so much that because of the battery life, it weighs so much and it's uncomfortable. And but yeah, the resolution, it's just, and dude, I just talked to somebody who was like, it's perfect. And I was like, okay, would you show me your screen, please? Because I really want to make sure this is right. And they showed me your screen. I'm like, dude, that screen looks terrible. And they're all, oh yeah, it sort of does. I'm like, but you already put your fucking review out. What are we doing? What are we doing? It's like, it's okay to admit there's problems. I don't see any reason whatsoever to not say that there's a bunch about this I love, but that software-wise it needs a fix. And I think we saw that with the Xbox and the OS. We've seen it with Sony's OS. This is not uncommon to have really good hardware held back by that software part. And I think there's a lot of good stuff here, but I can't understand where they're coming from, where cloud streaming isn't here. Because I'm going to tell you, if cloud streaming has those issues, you could then blame it on the internet. And I think a lot of people would have. They would have been like, oh, maybe it's GFN, or it wouldn't be GFN, but maybe it's, you know, the internet between me and the servers. This isn't it. It's a fucking system. And it's what you're left with. And it just sucks. It's disappointing because there's a lot I like. It's just,
from what I'm hearing, at least right now,
I love.
I don't think it's worth it. I don't
no,
think
that'd
it's
be my rating. It would be wait for a sale. Yeah, for sure. Wait for a sale. I will say that. Wait for a sale. I think that's fair. Like at some point when you look at it, if somebody's asking you for $200, and we're going to talk about these next. If they're asking you for $200, they got to deliver $200, and there's a lot of devices that deliver it better at $200. And
even then, if it did what it did perfectly, I would say the use case for it is just super narrow. It's like if you like gaming in your bed, or if you have a one TV and wife and kids and they want to use the TV and you want to game on it, like I don't see anything outside of that. Did you try like streaming from another location? Like go to a Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi to
not
stream
Starbucks,
from
another
your
person's
PS5
place who's a tester.
Did you try that?
Of Wi-Fi. That they literally run their own Wi-Fi stuff. They have their own ham radio. They're like a tech head, and we set it up, made sure there was no overlap. It's not that. It's not. And by the way, I know it's not that because other people have already mentioned it. So is there more input lag
if you're outside of your house versus if you're in the same local network?
If you're trying to go home, yeah, there's a little bit more, and that works. But it just compounds any other issues that you may notice at home. And you definitely notice those. I mean, like, this is sort of what you know me, like, this is one of my major big things I love. So it's like I've got all these handhelds, and it's like, this is what I do is test them. And it does feel like a device where maybe it's 6 months early. Yeah. Because to have the CEO just 2 days ago say, well, we could do cloud streaming on it, we just haven't. And you're like, what in the hell? That is a huge element to what would make this device a little bit more palatable for somebody at $200. Because at $200, you are running smack dab into other systems. You know, are they the best systems in the world? No, but they're still a form factor that's identical, and they do more stuff and at a better bit rate and better.
Man, I'm sorry. Like I'm gonna sound very sorry, and it just keeps bothering me. Like I think, from what I heard, like. I expected it at least with the narrow thing that it does to do it well, and right now, like it's unacceptable for me, man. Like that is just shitty, dude. There's a lot of caveats. I can't wrap my head. Yeah, for something that is a caveat, like that is made to be a caveat. There's so many caveats. Like for something so narrow and asking prices, half
you know
of a
what's
PS5
even weirder?
Almost.
If you ever talk to anybody who streams like I do at my house. Yeah. You always talk about local streaming being better, not just because of latency, which is sort of de facto. We all know that. Yeah. It comes up with bitrate. That's what you always hear people talking about is like, oh, man, at home, I can, it's just me and them. So I can crank that bitrate up and I can get a clearer picture. And it's like, well, you can't actually
because you're on the same local network.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big deal. So I will say they shipped me the earbuds as well. These are $200. They
I don't know why I'm so bothered. Right, I'm so bothered by this. Well, it's just I
want to point out that the earbuds are awesome, but they're $200.
$200, dude. It's the same price as the fucking thing you're buying, dude.
Yeah, and they're great. They're
sure. I'm sure they are, dude. They better be.
They're very comfortable. They have a good range, really good sound. If you're a VR fan, I've heard a lot of people say they wanted to get rid of their Pulse headset, maybe use the earbuds. I will say that whenever I make that decision as a VR person, I have to decide, is it worth $200? So what I mean is, if I've got some earpads on, they're slightly uncomfortable, I have to then go, will $200 pay for itself over this period of time? Also, their battery life is about 4 hours. What? So their battery life is shorter. At least it's been twice now shorter for me than the PlayStation Portable, which was sort of odd because my idea was to pair them like as a thing, but they went bad twice prior to that because the battery life in that portal can be very good depending on what's going on the screen and your brightness. but they're good earbuds. I think for the price, they're, and they deliver good stuff, but they don't have any noise cancellation at all.
Man, and Sony's worse than Apple now, dude. For me,
I don't know if they're worse than Apple, but it's definitely a situation where it's confusing. And this has been the second confusing thing.
Yeah, maybe they get better. I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
PlayStation VR was confusing as well. When I was very excited because I'm a VR fan, I saw the headset and I was like, oh, they're doing some things. We all knew, no backwards compatible. See, that's the problem. There's a lot of caveats with all this tech, right? And these are comfortable, man. Like, I got to admit, so that people understand, they're shaped. They're weird. They're shaped like almost like a broken dick. They're like, I don't know. Maybe that's a duck's dick. Twisted. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's a duck stick. Have you tried working out with them? Do they fall easily, or
they would fall out if you tried to work out with them. Of my ears, at least. Yeah. They come with a number of insets, which is great. They sound good. They've got play in the air, speaker system. They're not normal. The not normal headphone speaker systems. They're good. And I like what you get out of them, but I just think battery life should be longer for 200. I think we're at a point now where the technology, and competition's rough at $200. 200, by the way, so that people understand, $200 is like the Goldilocks zone for the consumer right now. Meaning, if I have $200 and I want to buy headsets or earbuds, earphones, what have you, or a system like this, there are so many options for consumers that it becomes quite difficult to make a name for yourself in that spot. I think sound-wise, when I was playing with them, they handled 3D sound really well. They worked really good. I was doing Horizon Zero Dawn, I did Spider-Man, I did Red Dead, I did Call of Duty, Black Ops. I think mostly I noticed it in Horizon, because Horizon has that really good ambient, and there's all the different monsters, and you can hear a monster. I call them monsters, but you can hear a robot in the background digging through the dirt. You can hear all that. It's really good, discreet, but $200, you're going to have to decide if that's worth it for you. But I would say overall, wait for a sale on the Portal. The Portal is really a caveat-laden kind of machine, and I've seen a lot of people hate it. Now I'm starting to see reviews where people are like, I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. It's like, whatever, it's out. It's out. I understand where they were going. They just didn't hit it. They were going for a very specific machine, and there was 3 things that I think they could easily fix. Easily fix. If they went in and they patched that and they gave you a bitrate setting, that would be dramatic, just a massive improvement. By the way, codec, you can't adjust codecs, which you can on, any Android, Sunshine, all of the streaming services or the streaming apps you get. If you were able to make some adjustments with this system, I think you could tune it to something really great. But every single device I have beat it, because you could adjust that bitrate. And that was ultimately sort of depressing, because it's very comfortable. It was so comfortable, in fact. Listen to that. Yeah. It was so comfortable. I almost tried to figure out a way to connect a tablet or something to the front.
On the controller.
And yes, I was like, could I figure out a way to work around, because it's that comfortable.
That's so funny. Yeah.
You know me, I'm not I like the PlayStation. I think you like the controller more than me. I like
the 12sense is a great controller in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what feels the best. And even as a person who likes it somewhat, I was blown away by how comfortable it is to hold. And there was I don't know. Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, the issue, especially with the 4-hour battery life on a Bluetooth earphones, is that if you have a Bluetooth headset, and they're way more than 4 hours usually, but if you have a Bluetooth headset, you can just plug in and keep it on and keep using it while it's plugged in and charging. The issue with those, you have to take it out and put it in the case.
I bet you, Abzy, too, I like to listen to my games loud. Not ear. I never had it 100%. I'm not an idiot.
Sure.
I definitely noticed, since there was no active noise cancellation, I turned it up higher than if there had been.
Right.
And then that's going to impact battery life. So depending on how you do this, same way with the Portal itself, turn down that brightness a little bit, you're going to get a longer battery life. and we'll just have to see if they fix the codecs. I mean, there's some good stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of caveats. It was really one of those times where I was playing it, and
I found a use case for it. What if you can play like a game split screen, but not actually split the screen, but one of you guys would play with the portable screen? Can you even do that? Probably not, right?
Not right now, but I would love that. See, dude,
yeah.
If let's say you're playing Skylander, I'm trying to think of like a game where like both people can see the screen, Gauntlet, whatever. This would be fantastic if somebody wanted to play with somebody else who was laying down, and you're like, dude, let's just do this at a good bit rate. That would be awesome. Yeah. I would not want to play a colorful, explosive, particle-ridden game on this currently for a long period of time, just because it becomes very just messy as a screen. It's like white noise or a bad compression on an MP3, where you start to hear that in this case, you're seeing it. And I like the ideas for it, but it's just, there's too many caveats, man. There's too many caveats for it, for a system at this cost. I think you're looking at $400 if you get both. If you get the $199.
It's insane. That's a PS5 right there, almost.
And that's a PS5. And when they add cloud streaming, I'll be the first one to like jump in and try it, because I think they'll probably do cloud plus the network. That's what I see as them.
It has to, right, man?
Like, yeah, I do. I absolutely, unless the reason why this is this cost and all this stuff is that their chip inside can't decode but that would be, I don't even know of it. You would have to get a cell phone that's like fucking 10 years old. I call it a cell phone. You'd have to get a phone that was like 10 years old to get something that would have that many problems. Like, unless it's some battery thing where the way they're getting it to last, and it's pretty good battery on the Portal. Maybe, they put something in there. But like,
there's no tech in there. It's just streaming, right? Like, there's not
and the
much...
decoder chip. Yeah, to decode
and the
screen.
Vibrations, I guess. I mean, the DualSense itself has shit ass battery, so
yeah. I like the vibration in it. I thought that was good. I thought I'd turn it off, and I didn't. I really did like the vibration. I don't like the triggers. I will point out the reason why is if you have force feedback in a trigger on a game console, maybe you won't notice this as much, but I've bitched about it before, that if it's really hard, I might adjust my aim slightly. And I notice on this, if I'm doing a lot of stuff, you're moving the screen. So there's some caveats there.
Yeah, but there's a screen on there that changes stuff, like with haptics. Does the screen ever shake and shit and make it...
Nope. That all works. Man, I dig the screen. LCD, sure, but like I was actually, and you can get a screen protector.
They're going to release an OLED one later, like a refresh, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably, right?
Yeah.
It seems to be like the trend.
Yeah, man. And anybody who's like, worried about it, no, I'll continue playing it, and I'll continue to update on it. It's just that right now, for what it is, I have to rate it for what they're trying to do and what they were aiming and trying to do for. I've seen other people say, oh, it works well within this niche. And that was not my experience. Was that, and maybe it's because people are unfamiliar with that niche. Maybe it's because all the systems I tested on, everyone was at a point of failure only when I plugged this in.
Well, you are a streaming fanatic, so you would know a lot.
Yeah, this is pretty much all I do is stream this stuff.
Yeah. So, hey guys, I'm playing Far Cry Primal in bed
at 3 a.m. Love the games. $5 super chat. You guys got to know, every week I listen while I work, and your podcast is one of my favorite media to consume. When is Burnout 3 remake coming?
Burnout 3? Oh man, I miss Burnout games. Burnout, like Paradise and stuff. Burnout, I love Burnout.
Those were fun, laid back action, just action racing.
Fun. And I loved in Paradise, there was so much to do in the world, like random challenges, and I'd go to like a street and it shows me all my friends' high scores or speeds or jumps or whatever, and I try to that stuff was fun, man. Yeah.
Chib, $5 super chat. I'm about an hour behind. Hello from the past. I just want to say Vampire the Masquerade just released its Dishonored Light in VR. Loving it. Yeah, I actually saw I saw an ad for this last night on Reddit and forgotten. So that's cool to know. It is some jumping and stuff, but it looked less whatever than Assassin's Creed. So I might check it out. SBZ, $5 super chat. Do you think Sony would remove the Remote Play app so they can push PS Portal? Oh God, let's not even go there.
Please don't.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Here's what I think. I think that I'm just going to go behind it and say, if they want to do well for consumers, all they're going to do is improve it. I mean, PSVR 2 has improved. They've improved some stuff, not games, but they've improved, the OS, and they've firmware updated it and stuff. I'm just going to sit with that. I think they'll update it. Yeah. What game have you guys been playing? Alex says. We talked about that earlier, Remnant, and I've been playing a game.
Oh, what is it? Is it Rogue Trader? It is Rogue Trader.
No, it's not Rogue Trader. That's funny, though. No, it's not Rogue Trader.
Rogue Trader is so far away. It's a month away.
Yeah, Rogue Trader with its... I mean, I'm hoping no bugs, but time for more Babylon 5, Butterball says. Yes, indeed. Any time is good time for Babylon 5. Okay, I got all those questions. Let's jump to the next subject. So, anyway, I appreciate everybody being open to, my thoughts on that. That's just sort of the way it is. And I would also say that will a video be coming? No. I think the podcast is it.
This is your video now.
Yeah, this is my video. I mean, the video would make money, but it's like, I'd rather... I'm really solid on what I did enough testing. I have no doubts. It's unfortunate, but let's talk about something good, though. Witcher 3 is getting mod support. So what does this mean, though? Is it from the Witcher devs?
Yes, like true, like creation kit, like mod editor, like make your own quests, make your own locations. Like Witcher does have mods, but they're stuff that you can do without Xedit, without
That's
very
awesome.
intricate modding tools. So they're adding like the engine. Go in there, Witcher quests, and basically Skyrim, but in Witcher. So I'm always excited when games add modding capabilities like that, and very excited to see what the modding community does and adds to the game and adjusts. And
so, do we have any idea why this randomly came up 8 years later or whatever? How many years after Witcher 3 we're getting this?
But one thing I don't know how they would handle is Geralt has a voice. And if you're doing new quests, sure, you can hire voice actors to do the NPCs.
I see.
Can you do AI voice for Geralt, or can you call up the dude and be like, "Yo, bro, I know you're doing this Netflix thing now, but come voice act Geralt for free on this mod, please."
Do you know what? So a lot that's of them the only do? Thing. They cut the audio from other quests. And they put it in there. So if Geralt said, "Hey," Geralt said, "Yes, I'll do this."
Plus, it's not like he says a lot, right? Like,
it's not like it's not like he's
I'll go kill the monster.
In the old days, he's not telling stories like an old storyteller.
That's true.
But it's weird, man. It was out of the blue to see that announced. Witcher getting mod support is fantastic. I wasn't aware it was the main. Yeah. So I wonder what that means then, like a front end. Have they say, is it going to be like a front end for mods, or just where they give mod creators the data that they need?
I'm thinking it'll be like a creation kit engine, like a whole front end. Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be a whole thing. I didn't look into it much, but that's what I'm expecting. Is it'll have the game in there, and then the level editor and all that stuff. But we'll see. But it's definitely the necessary tools to be able to do that kind of stuff, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's very cool to see them actually support mods, because I also don't believe I know of any Witcher 3 mods, and I don't know if people have held off. But I've seen EMB mods. Yeah.
Some like quality of life stuff. Like one that I always used was displaying all the side quests on the map at once. So you don't have to like switch between side quests to be able to see the markers on the map, stuff like that. Nothing too major. Yeah.
I would like to see that. I mean, I don't know if quests are as big of a deal to me as maybe monsters would be cool. New monsters,
new game mechanics, kind of revamps, overhauls. That's the kind of stuff I like more so than new quests and shit. Cause you can't really,
they don't feel, a lot of times they don't feel they feel like added. You can, have you ever played a game and seen, the mod, the quest is from a mod just because of like how it's written?
Maybe someone improves the combat, makes the combat good.
Combat's pretty good, right? Once they updated everything, at first when it released, it had issues, but I think the combat in Witcher 3 is considered pretty good, right? Or is it not? Is it not considered good? I don't know. I don't track.
I loved it when it came out. Like, I thought it was great, even though it came out after Bloodborne, and Bloodborne had way better combat. But I enjoyed it, like the decapitations and stuff. But when I replayed it recently, I was like, this combat really kind of got old. Like, it shows its oldness. Yeah.
You are not the only one who's mentioned that. We had somebody in our Discord voice chat just a couple weeks ago. We were talking, and they said they've returned, and I was all excited. I was like, "Oh man, yeah, it's been a while. What do you think?" And they're like, "I don't like the combat anymore. It feels way too old." Now, what are they comparing it to, though? What's come after Witcher 3 that makes?
I think God of War is like one of the big ones where it just had like very refined combat. Obviously. Yeah, the thing is, The Witcher 3 did come after Bloodborne, and Bloodborne still has fantastic combat if you decide to play it now. Unfortunately, it's mired down by like the FPS issues, but yeah, a lot of games since then just nailed combat, and I'm thinking God of War is like the most popular one that has very satisfying, tight melee combat, right?
I mean, it could be me, dude, but like if you sat me in a room and said, "What games feel like Witcher 3?" God of War would never be in that list.
Sure.
I don't know why,
but it doesn't feel like Witcher 3.
It doesn't feel like Witcher. Yeah, like Witcher 3 feels more like Horizon Zero Dawn, and Witcher 3 have a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean like an Elix style of game?
Risen, Elix type shit. And that's part of the reason back in like with an RPG that good that came out, back in the day I would even now, like if the RPG is good enough, I usually excuse like a lot of jankiness, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Everybody in chat, what do you guys think? What games, if we were looking at Witcher 3, what games truly I don't want to hear no Call of Duty. What games overlap with Witcher 3 in combat? I would say I do. I think Horizon does a lot. The like third person aiming, even though boy, does Horizon's combat does not age well. Good.
Horizon Zero Dawn,
the up close combat,
Oh, the up close combat.
Dude, I was playing that last night, and dude, it works for that game because of that character. But even with the upgrades and stuff, the moment a dinosaur, whatever, but what moment one of those creations got close to me, and I started fumbling to spin or get around, I was just like, oh man, this is. You need to be ranged, man. Like it's a last ditch. I get it, but it's a real last ditch when she gets like up close to somebody.
Yeah, I was hoping it felt better in the second one because they implemented a lot of really cool shit where you can like melee and then jump and shoot with the bow and stuff like that. So I would have liked it if they did kind of make the melee combat better than the.
So some people are saying AC games. I agree. I think some AC games definitely have an
Origins
overlap.
Came. Like even I don't know if they said it outright or not, but Origins was like inspired a lot by Witcher.
They were. Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima, I would agree. I mean, those are the third person. Sure. Assassin's Creed, Matt Clark, $5 super chat again. Thank you for the super chats, guys. They help a great deal, especially because I'm not doing that fucking Portal video. Matt Clark, $5. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yeah, the only game to make a Viking feel not like a Viking.
Oh,
man.
Yeah, he was too loose for a Viking. Way too loose for a Viking.
Oh, dude, they were so close.
Yeah.
If you just slowed Eivor down just a bit, and you had a little
made the animation tighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not only tighter,
more
but like weight. Yeah. Like I remember the first time.
Like Kratos.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, true. I mean, I guess that is one. You could definitely say comparison-wise, the weight and Kratos is better at delivering, even when he's a big dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also we joke in D&D snick, which is the sound of chopping a person, like snick. You chop somebody's head off, or you pull the weapon out of somebody and you get the wet suction sound. I'm not saying you stabbed anybody, but if you've stabbed, I'll just say I've stabbed a deer
a lot of people
that is dead. But when you pull, you'll hear a lot of people, a lot of times they can't get a knife out of a body, so they'll stab somebody. They'll cut themselves first of all because their hand slides over. And then, and then pulling it out, there's a suction and there's a sound.
Yes. Yeah.
If you had like in your games, if there was this like, and that's what Vermintide did well. When you would hit in Vermintide, they would actually freeze the animation for like one frame, but you'd be like, and it felt, you were like, dude, I rock
Even
that guy.
Dark Tide, like the melee just feels really, really good.
Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good when you hit like that. People are saying, let's see, Warhammer, Valhalla, Greedfall, more Greedfall, Ghost of Tsushima, Star Wars Jedi. Yes. Even though I
love Greedfall, man. I can't wait for the second one.
I actually see Star Wars. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I'm more excited for a Greedfall 2 than than a lot of games. Yeah, Greedfall.
Yeah. And Banishers and shit.
Greedfall was for such a Vampire is high up there. If you said Vampire 2 and Greedfall, that would be a discussion.
True. Oh my god, Vampire is so good. The dialogue.
I can't wait.
The dialogue in both those, Greedfall and Vampire, both had amazing dialogue, I thought.
Learning a lot about Karak today. Boy, let me tell you. Yeah, no, I meant I stabbed it. Yeah. It was dead. We had shot it, and I stabbed a deer. Because my dad had said one time, I think I asked him, I was like, when you're a little kid, you don't know. And I think I asked him, like, why don't you just sneak up on the deer and stab it? And he was like, well, one of the issues with stabbing, like, flesh is that it sticks. And I remember being really surprised how and you hear that, murders, somebody's hand will slide over the blade when they stab, and they'll cut their hand, and that's one way you can see is they slide right over the blade. It's an interesting thing, and no, I haven't stabbed anybody that's been tracked. Ghost of Tsushima was popular, then Horizon, but for some reason we got a sequel to Horizon, but no sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah,
what are they working on? Sucker Punch.
Ghost of Tsushima.
2?
2.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
right. Or PC. That was hopefully leaked on the GeForce Now leak. Yeah, was that Ghost of Tsushima is coming to PC? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Hopefully they improve on the stealth systems and the stance system. Is what I'm hoping for improvements on.
Dude,
we always talk about that stance system, man. I think it's garbage.
It feels like old martial arts movies. Ox stance, fox stance.
It's fucking, just you see a guy with a shield. I'm just gonna press the left.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very trivial.
And you come around a corner and you see the guy with the shield, and you're like, I have to do it like right away.
Forces you.
Yeah, it forces you. And I love
like Neo. Be like water.
Yeah. Be like Well, that's not Neo. Come on, that was Bruce Lee. Neo's.
Yeah. No, Neo too, like the game, like stance.
Oh, you mean be like water stance? I thought you were repeating the saying "be like water," which was saying Bruce Lee.
Be like Neo, and then in my head I got that BruceLee quote. So I was like,
gotcha,
be like
got him
like
overlapped.
Fluid stance switching,
dude. Neo felt good. Neo too.
Neo felt good
in particular.
Neo
what are your thoughts on the new Warhammer Marine? Alex says. I don't know what that means. If you mean my thought on Space Marine, I did a preview on Space Marine too.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. That's another game in 2024 I'm really excited for. Yeah.
Matt Clark, $5 super chat. I don't know if it's similar to The Witcher 3, but I absolutely love the combat in Shadows of Mordor, probably closer to Batman.
It's like Batman.
Yeah.
True.
Hit Y to win. That's what those games are. And I like them. I'll bring it up in the
what did it really
even,
well
but I still like them.
Is a game you love. Mad Max was very visceral with that combat system. It felt good, and you got the shotgun too, right? Or the gun.
Having a little secondary sexual satisfaction. Mad Max.
Who made that? Oh, Avalanche. Yeah,
Avalanche. Mad Max. When the guys get close, and I remember I was doing the walking the walk, and I hit a guy, and like he bent his back over a railing, and then slid down, and then the other guy came, and you unload the shotgun up close.
Yeah,
and I was just like, it was everything I want. Even though it's hit Y to win, it was everything I wanted from. So Batman feels brutal, right? Spider-Man feels flexible. Ghost of Tsushima feels, you could say static, but it's swordy. It's got that kind of stuff. Horizon has this ranged, but Mad Max was just, it was beyond. Visceral. Even his punch, dude. You can load up a punch from like 6 blocks away, and Max is like, "Fuck you!" It feels so good, man. ACG rough game shirt. Go hard, by the way. Might have to get another one. Yeah, buy one, William, if you get a chance, man. There's a $10. What do you call it? What's that? What is that called? Coupon. There's a $10 coupon you can get for buying shirts.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we can finally send Absy a shirt because he bought one like 9 years ago and it still didn't show up. Right now, somebody in customs is wearing the ACG shirt, dude, and he's like, "You guys like my shirt? I stole this."
I'm pretty sure I bought 2 of them.
Mad Max car repair sound is stuck in my head. Yes, that is true, man. When you get up to the vehicle, oh, and you have what's his name? Not Rotlip. What the hell's that guy's name?
That little ghoul.
The little ghoul, dude. He was. You know what? I don't know about you.
But,
Big problem
yeah.
with Mad Max.
Sure.
Why did they attach a person to the car so the dog could only come with you if you had the kennel car? To me, that was such a misunderstanding of Mad Max, which is half the dog. Like when the dog gets shot in the movie, the dog saves his life. The dog holds the bad guy guard with the shotgun and the stick in its mouth. And instead, in Mad Max the game, you have to have the kennel car to have the dog. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's weird. Because like then you'd be forced. Yeah.
Alex says, which gameplay or reveals will we see at the Game Awards this year? Chum Bucket. Thank you, Chum Bucket. Sorry.
What's Chum Bucket? Oh, that's the guy.
Chum Bucket's the name of the guy. That's like the cut I did of us talking where you said like, what's a gilf and what's a cougar? And I'm like, robots.
Right. Yeah.
Let's look at what other news we got. We did Witcher. You said, okay, dude, let's break this down. Let's break it down. We had a 2-hour discussion about this last night in the Patreon Discord. GTA 6 CEO says games theoretically should be priced per the hour. Like longer games would charge more. I want to point something out.
Yes.
Can I point this out real quick?
Sure.
It's not what he said. And the reason why this bothers me is because if you're going to do a clickbait article, at minimum, at least somewhat align with what the person said. And that, by the way, if you go look at his quote, is he was answering a question about how, and I'm not making excuses, I think this would be a terrible idea, but the way he was describing things, that is not what he said.
Okay.
He was talking about how they look at games and realize some games give you, let's say, a Fortnite. That's free to play, so we don't want to use that. But let's say a purchased game. Some games give you 50 to 60 hours.
Sure.
And some games give you 6 to 8. And we are currently in a state where people are starting to bitch about the 6 to 8. We are in that right now. Well, what he was saying is some games that are that long that also take more money to create, that when they look at their books, they are giving an amazing deal currently. And if it was up to him, as in he was the one choosing all prices, which he's not, he might adjust the price. That was it. And I just want to make that clear because that's not the same. It's not. I don't think it's the same thing. I'll put.
I don't think it's the same thing. Two things. The thing about what he said. Even though it does, let's say, it's a bigger budget for a bigger game to create, I think the market kind of adjusts where more people buy into it. However, I've always talked about like, I would like to see like a Megalodon 120 hour game.
Yeah, $120 game to see what it would do. Yeah.
But I'm not equating hour to, to price or like our sunk cost per hour. Like I don't agree with valuing a game or a piece of entertainment I buy for like that easily or that binary. You know what I mean?
Because most of the value, that is not binary. You would take it into account in a large series of parts.
Exactly. Yeah. Like a 30-hour game can be very focused and very let's say what's that co-op game that that Lebanese guy that I love he does for EA what's it called?
It Takes Two. No Way Out, and It Takes Two, and No Escape, or No Way Out, or whatever.
For example, that game is much smaller than like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it has way more focus on like a lot of different
dense
gameplay,
narrative, gameplay changes.
Yes, and very, you're doing a lot of different things versus repetitive. So there's a lot of things to take into account, and it's just like the what I'm paying for is not how long something is gonna last me. It's what I'm going to get out of it overall. It's how much enjoyment it's gonna bring me, or if it's gonna hit me. Like Alan Wake 2 hit me in a very different like personal way, whereas like something like Baldur's Gate 3 or let's say Starfield didn't hit me in that way, but I had fun for way longer. But it doesn't mean that, just because I had fun for way longer in Starfield that, I won't justify, because the other one gave me something completely different. So I just don't agree with the overall hour per. You can have that because some people would want, like, let's say they're on a budget and it's like, okay, I want to be able to buy a game that would last me this and this long. That's
Yeah.
a valid thing to have, but I don't think that a value of a game in of itself should be predicated by the time that it takes to beat. Yeah.
Not only that, but dude, come on, man. Like, I mean, I get that we want clickbait and all this stuff. I do. I actually get it,
Sure.
especially because people are trying to get their names, and we saw this a couple days. By the way, that link is not the official. That's one of the stories on this. There are multiple people reported on this prior to Forbes, but that's the one that Abzi and I just happened to find. It's never just that. And we also see games at 30. And we see games at 9. So my personal opinion would be that we also see games at 120 sell you a fucking code and a statue. There's obviously different people, and then there's different things in the game, and people are so afraid of gray areas that it's like, this is what was said for sure. And it's like, I'm not saying that person isn't out for theirs. Of course they are. They were at an investor meeting, though. That's what they were asked from, it was their financial discussion. It's like, that's what the discussion's going to be around, what we offer. Maybe they think, hey, we stick around at this price, we're going to do better because people will then compare us to other games at that price, which is also a thought process to make more money in the long run. But 39, $5.99, we're seeing prices everywhere, like all over. And I actually love that. I like it because then I can look. I mean, I do feel differently for $30. I mean, if a game's $30, you can bet your ass I know the difference.
Exactly.
It's $30. It's like half the price. Of course, there might be some differences.
There's a lot of people I see also arguing about what makes a AA game, what makes a AAA game, what makes an indie game. In my opinion, it's budget. Obviously, like for me, it's just like, oh, if it's this budget, it's this. If it's this, but for the end user, all you're gonna see is a price point and a game. If you're buying a $30 game, you judge it with other $30 titles. That's an indie for you. If you're buying a $50 or $40 game, that's a AA for you. If you're buying a $60 game, that's going to be judged with other $60 games. That's a AAA game, and it's as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where it's like you just judge it by the price and the production value you're getting at that price. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love the idea at all, but I do. If you call everything a wolf, when a real one shows up, it's going to be really hard to identify that's a wolf. Like there's real things. Unity, the Unity debacle, that's real. Like we saw, you know what I mean? Like you saw what Unity was doing, and everybody saw it and was like, that's a real thing, and we can point at it and say these are the problems with that. And then when we start it's almost like when we've joked and we say, don't clip me because I said something in a sentence and you didn't hear the first or last part. That's sometimes what these are. And I'm like, I get it. We want to hate people. I hate them too. But I also, for some reason, I hate that kind of stuff because it always makes me worried that this is going to sound, this is like fucking flat earth kind of stuff. But sometimes I'm like, what if these guys are starting to misuse everybody on purpose so that when they do make these changes, everybody accepts it more softly because it's not as bad as the whole change. Conspiracy. Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it sounds straight up flat earth, but it's like, dude, if I'm thinking that and I'm an idiot running a YouTube channel, what's some CEO who has the metadata going, Eric's onto something. What if we do this?
Yeah.
I don't. It scares the shit out of me.
I think it's like those clickbaity titles are just like it's so easy to do that, to get people riled up against like big corpo. Like EA doesn't like single player games and all that stuff. Where it's just they want the clicks because people love to hate. People love to hate big corpo. So
I did get a long personal letter delivered to my home. This was, what month are we in? We're in November. This would have been in July, I believe, summer month. And it was from a patron. About 2 pages of why they were no longer going to patron me. And it was that their belief was that, so this was right when I turned to 1 million. So maybe it was a month or two later. It's about 2 pages, very nicely written. Okay. But it was written and sent to my house. It was a little weird. But it stated, you're at 1 million. So
Okay.
therefore, you can no longer be trusted. And I was
Oh
like,
wow, you got too big. You've been doing good work.
yeah.
Got too
And I was all,
got big
oh,
enough for me to
we're
hate
there
you.
now. Like that's like that number means something when somebody sees it.
Oh
They
god.
mean, and I was like,
I
okay,
want my
you know,
streamer or I want my content creator to be only at this
small
size. I
and
don't want him to get
uncomfortable.
big,
That is what
big
we
and
want.
corrupt.
You want small
Right.
and uncomfortable. And the
Yeah.
moment somebody, and by the way, I'm just big and uncomfortable. Like I'm still having the same
Yeah.
financial, you still have the same difficulties. But yeah, it was
Sure.
I get where people are coming from because there's like a nervousness. We see Unity doing. I mean, dude, the Unity stuff was like watching. You always hear that watching a car wreck, but this was
Okay.
like watching somebody get in the car drunk and being able to stop them. You couldn't talk them out of the car. Then they get in the car, then they drive, and then you see the wreck. Like Unity
Yeah.
stuff took so many steps. I remember just continually each day looking at like another post going, they can't be like, what? A lot of times I'll think there might be another plan, like, oh, they're going to add this, and Unity, the Unity issues definitely didn't. I mean, those guys fucked up forever.
That was fucked.
I think they're
that reminds me.
screwed forever.
It reminds me when I was a kid and like a song like Avicii Levels would come out and stuff, and not a lot of people would know about it, and I'd be like, oh, this is awesome, and then it would get too huge, and everybody would start like listening to it, and then I'm like, oh fuck this song.
Yeah, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, I don't like it anymore.
Imagine Dragons are too big. Michael Cook, $2 super chat. Vampire Survivors is the perfect example for me. I think he means of a game that delivers a ton of stuff. Wanna be dead. Ron, 25. Here's to another 1 million subscribers, man. Well, thank you. Hopefully I'm alive till then. Got to stick around. Thank you. Yeah, very much. Don't stop being blunt and real. Don't stop being blunt and real.
Yeah.
Blunt?
Keep
Is that
being blunt and real.
I guess it is. I'm excited for gaming though as a whole, even with this. Somebody, I don't know if you saw somebody's post, but the moment we started talking, the very first comment was, yeah, but it's Red Dead 2. It's one of the few games I'd probably pay $100 for. And that was actually in the chat where multiple people were mad and were like, oh, I can't believe this. And then you saw these people pop in and they were like, yeah, but if it's a Red Dead 3, it's probably a game I would probably look at getting $100 for.
Dude, in hindsight, I would pay $120 for Red Dead 2.
Okay. Yeah. But okay, so here's the big problem. Since it's an initial purchase and you don't know if you would yet, are you sure you would? Do you see what I'm saying?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because Cyberpunk came out after Witcher 3, and I think a lot of people thought, oh, Witcher 3 was good. I would pay $60 for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. You make a great point. Yeah. So, I mean, if it was a disappointment, that's like 120 down the drain, or, unless there's like a refund or something. But
dude, that's 2 games. That's a lot of money. Like, you and I both want to see a $120 game just to see the anarchy that would unleash.
But like, I just feel like Red Dead 2 is above any other, it does. I'm not saying it's the best game ever, or it should be everyone's favorite, but like the stuff it does is just way above. It's like a benchmark, like we said before, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Like in hindsight, yeah, I would, but before hindsight, I don't know. That's a very good, like if they're making a Red Dead 3 or let's say GTA 6, and you wouldn't know. I mean, first of all, Dan Houser isn't there or something, and apparently he's like a big deal.
Bezos is gone, right? Yeah.
2 of them. So 2 of them. So yeah, you would never know. Like it's a very hard ask. And it's very interesting to see what would happen, how the market would adjust for that. Like, they just decide, hey, we're going to release this game for $120. Let's see what happens. I wonder. I'm just very curious.
I personally, I feel that most people listening, or most people that would go online, all that stuff, would also watch trailers and then start to pick it apart and decide, is it worth the 120? Yeah. So most likely you would hear it's 120 and go, what the fuck? But then if they were saying it's like Red Dead 2, but blah, 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 then somebody like yourself might be like, okay, well, it looks like they've got their plans in order. And I mean, all we can do is you can reward, who you want to reward. And I think that some people with Red Dead, they would reward. I mean, it came up. That was the only game, by the way. No other game came up last night. And somebody in patron chat, remind me if I mistook that, but I don't think there was a single other game that came up in that chat as, if it was Red Dead 3, I'd probably do it. I mean, because like Bully, I love Bully, but it's not as big or as scopish or as like.
Let's say I can't think of any company outside of Rockstar that would be able to pull it off. Maybe Larian if they decide to not make it a CRP, like make it like, I don't know. But Rockstar is the only thing where they have like thousands of devs working on one game and scripting fucking everything and every little detail and doing all this shit. I can't think of any other company doing that, where I can't think of any other game where I'd be like, yeah, I'd pay $120 for it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Soul Sleeper, $24 super chat. Gents, tuning in a bit later today, so the topic might have been already tackled, but any thoughts on the Steam Deck OLED and jumping on it starting tomorrow? Thanks, Steven. Cheers, is what he says. I'm sorry. I translated that. The OLED is only like $50 more than the... Isn't that how they priced it? It's pretty close to the cost of the original. So I think if you don't have a Steam Deck, they're longer battery life. Go for the OLED. Yeah, right. There's no real... I haven't heard any negatives of the Steam Deck OLED from the people who've had time with it. I haven't heard any negatives other than... Well, no, it's all been positives. It's been long. I mean, maybe money, but it's all been
for sure
lasts longer. If you like the form factor, I would say if you already have one and you buy another one, that's on you. And I don't think I'm even the person you should ask, because I don't believe in that anyway. Like, with I'm not a hardware revision guy at all. I haven't done it ever.
Yeah, I don't.
I got a Slim when the Xbox 360 red ringed. I didn't even get a new one until the 360.
Yeah, my 360 red ringed until I bought, I think, the Elite or the Arcade. I think I bought the Arcade.
I baked mine, Absy. I baked that bitch. Did you bake your 360?
Yeah, I put it in. I would turn it on and put it in towels. And wait like 20 minutes for it to overheat, and then I'm good for like another couple days until it red rings again. Yeah, I did that for a while, dude.
The first person who decided, let's eat that round shelled thing that came out of a chicken. That guy deserves that guy deserves kudos. Who the fuck woke up and said, let's wrap a 360 in a fucking towel?
I don't know, man. I watched the YouTube video. I was like, well, okay. I don't know if they like found out that overheating it would fix
I'm
the
sure
issue.
It had to do with that, but a towel, and then I saw somebody putting them in the oven, but they knew how hot the plastic would melt at,
like
so they were like
300 Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, you know, or some shit. Like
it's like I have a hard enough time sometimes, deciding black or white socks, and there's some jackass over there who's like, actually use a towel, and you put your and you're just what? And it worked. And by the way, that one worked. You know how
times,
you'll hear people, there'll be the myths of something working, like clean your, I'm not saying this doesn't work, but like clean your CD with toothpaste. That'll make it read better or whatever if you have an old CD, or boil it. You'll hear all these sort of old wives' tales. That one pops up, and of all the ones I never thought would work, it'd be ovening my own console.
Yeah, man. I remember like, man, I was a kid at the time, so like it's not like I had funds and stuff. I was very, very devastated. It was like my only console and stuff, and I was very in love with it. And just finding that YouTube video and then doing this trick just saved my life, man. And
it saved me $300. Colton says someone that understands the fusing of heat sinks. It's for sure a person who understands heating.
For sure, yeah.
They would have also had to have understood the exact temp that the solder softened at. Yeah. There's multiple things that, and this reminds me, I was talking to Cadiz on a workout yesterday. I was like, dude, back in the day, how did we even fix anything when it was all magazines? And I remember I have a couple magazines are like, here's a patch, but it wasn't quite often. But then we figured it out. In the back of this PC Gamer mag, I said PC Gamer, I don't think it was them. There was a tips and tricks, and what they would do is they would talk about the last 3 months' games, and then they would have codes. So they'd be like, oh, to stop this save game error on this Apple IIe game, bracket it out and blah, blah, blah. And you'd be like, oh, that's how we got. Because I was trying to figure out how did I...
I
was like, how did I figure that out? Because we remembered some fixes we did. Like Sound Blaster compatibility was huge when I was young. Is it Sound Blaster? And I was like, well, how would I even know that? And then we found it in the back of his magazine. It was like, oh, you need to add latency, because if it's too quick, Sound Blasters will crack during audio or whatever. And I'll be like, oh, that's how we got... Because without YouTube, dude, what a weird world. We didn't even know what we didn't know. You were just like, yeah, YouTube exists. What is it? And then the first time I remember looking at YouTube and getting a tip or a trick on something that was real, like repairing a car, and just being like, oh, man.
By the way,
this is magic.
This just reminded me of something. Is it a myth, or was it did it actually do something where I remember for the N64 and SNES, And for some reason, old consoles, putting in a game, like it's like a 50-50 chance of it working. But we would just go and like blow on it, like like just
Yeah, that for
put
sure
it back
worked.
in and it would work. Did it, like, was it a thing? Because we did it all the time.
Yeah, so those contacts, it could also make them worse over time, but those contacts, they would just get dusty. And so the other thing was, if you put a cartridge in the SNES, if you put it in cattywampus, if you don't put it in all the way and you brace your hands against the SNES and then you inch it with your fingers, you can actually get many games that refuse to boot. They'll boot because it's just corroded and nasty.
Okay.
Yeah, that was for sure.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the big one, which does work.
Which one?
The old 360 sometimes wouldn't load disc games, but if you shoved it in violently, it would work.
Yeah. What the fuck, dude?
Yes. So my 360 currently, if I let the machine pull it, nothing.
Yeah.
But if I go like, and I poke it hard and it flies in, it will work.
Yeah.
It's the go ahead.
Did you ever move your Xbox 360 while a CD was in there running a game?
Yeah. And it
just fucked up the disc.
Oh, dude.
Just like scratched the whole disc.
I had mine on its edge, and I remember Cadiz was over. We had controllers wired in,
like, hey,
and
let me
he
just
turned to me to hand the controller, and that thing fell over.
No.
Yeah. And have you ever done the slow motion? No, where everybody in life Michael Bay's towards a console or something. Where like, and you hear as it comes off. Oh man! Like, that's
I would actually. My local game store had like a thing where they would literally fix the CD with it.
Yeah,
go like,
CD buffers and stuff work really well.
Yeah, that was so funny, man.
Restore old ones.
I had that happen like multiple times where someone would just like, while I'm gaming, be like, "Hey, let me just do this," and I'd be like, "No!" and just kill the game right in front of me.
And what's so weird is, what the fuck kind of friend walks over to your electronics and is like, "Let me turn." But I know a lot of my friends didn't know that consoles could be on their sides either, and so when they first saw them, they thought it was, like, it was a disaster waiting to happen. And admittedly, I don't have the cleanest like electronics area for my TV, so I could see somebody going, "Oh, I'm just going to lay this down on its side," or I've seen people laying 45, and I'm like, "Dude, you are asking for that to come flying off at full speed and scratch it." Those were the days, man. But the biggest for me was controllers, because I would be tired or excited, and I would kick my feet up and drop my feet down. It would catch the wire and pull the entire console off of the thing. And they lived every time. The console would smash into the ground. You'd be like, "Oh, this is over." And you put it back up, and it'd be like, "Nah."
Wireless was such a huge thing, dude.
Wireless was a big deal. Yeah, when wireless first came out, it was like, "Oh yeah, this is sweet, man." It was so nice to be able to do that and not worry about the wires.
Dude, remember when the 360 came out and like they showed the controller, and you're like, the first time you held that controller, and you're like, "Damn!"
It was one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever used.
Oh, there's no wires and shit.
Yeah, it was so nice, and I still have wired for a lot of my stuff because I don't want to worry about batteries.
I got my headphones, I got my mouse, everything's wired.
Yeah, the only thing I don't use wired are these, because the battery lasts. But it's like, once you fight a battery even a couple times, I don't know about you, I get really frustrated fast. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be wired. I don't want to fight a battery, or I don't want to fight a wire. Oh
my god! And the controllers used to have the shitty, like the PS3 and USB-C. It was before USB-C, before the micro one. Oh man, those were even the micro one, like for the PS4.
They were terrible.
Hated those. Would break all the time, dude. They would break.
Am I the only one who flipped over the PS2 to get it to work? So I had a lot. This is one of my beefs with PlayStation that has continued since I was a little kid. I always had issues with their system. Somebody said, "Did you get a yellow light on your PS3?" Yes, day one. I've just had bad luck with a lot of it. So the PS2, my friend was like, "Hey, come over, play PS2." And at the time, I believe it was Saturn, and it was my system. So I came over, and the first thing he does is puts a system in, shuts it, and flips it over. And I'm like, "Why are you flipping it over?" It was the only way it would read the discs, was by flipping it completely upside down.
Wait, was it PS2 or PS3?
PS2 is what I'm talking about for flipping it
Oh,
over.
okay,
PS3 got
yeah,
the
because
yellow.
PS2 was a rectangle. PS3 had like a curve, so if
it
you
was
flip
George
it over,
Foreman grill. You couldn't put anything on top because it'd be candy bumpus, and you're just like, dude, what were you guys doing? I love that that is one thing. I don't like the PS5 at all. I think it's ugly, but the PS3, and I didn't love the PS3, but they were just like, let's do, Xbox is like boxes, right? Which is fine because but that is what they do. They're just 360, I guess, was 360 had that
360
HAL 9000 kind of look.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
with the little red ring.
Like
we all got
the 360, right? What PS2 was dope. PS4, man, I like the PS4 style.
You liked the almost like a futuristic skyscraper top,
very pointy. Yeah. It was really good. Yeah.
And then the Pro was 3, which I thought was intelligent.
Yeah.
So
the more. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just that thicker, extra slice. Like it was like, hey man, this where thicker burger. Yeah, it's a triple. Those were awesome. I screwed up so many consoles or dropped so many, but I'm also still stunned at how many have lived through the weirdest shit. I told you about my friend Roger dropping that monitor 3 stories. And watching it bounce and just being like, that's it. And us laugh because it's like 3 a.m. We're giggly and he's laughing. He drives home and he's like, dude, I still have that monitor to this day in a side room and it still works. Back in the day when stuff was just made out of
durable. Yeah.
Something else.
If you drop an iPhone right now, it'll just break.
Or the big thing is I've got a couple cracks in my tablet screens from a dog, like dropping it off the bed or leaping on it, to get up onto the bed and cracking it. And you're like, God damn it, I mean, still, I think screens are pretty tough now. I'm still pretty surprised that I have a 12-inch tablet that currently, knocking on wood, still doesn't have a crack. When you think of all that glass or whatever they're using, plexiglass. It's pretty impressive that they are able to keep it that way. Series S had a cute design. Series S, I actually think the Series S is sort of a smoking little console. What does it even?
I've never seen it. I've never seen what it looks like. It's just the white one
with the little fake. It's got the grill that sort of looks like a CD.
Okay, we got to talk about something. By the way, the series, this whole Xbox Series, whatever, is such a shit name. Okay. It's such a mouthful. Why did they name it that? Why did they name it Xbox Series X and what? Like, it's such a shit name, bro. I don't think I've talked about that before. I just think it's such a stupid name.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they were looking at like Razors, the company, the Scuffs, where they're like, this is because we see it in other devices calling themselves the Series.
It looks like a
this
speaker.
is our S series, cool. This is our X series. But series, it sounds weird. I almost wish it was X series and not Series S or X. And I don't know why. I think that's just a mental thing when I read it, where like X series could be a group of consoles that were like the powerful one that had their own different things. But when you say series,
I get what they're going for.
I get what they're going for, but it's
they just don't have a consistent thing like Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X,
Xbox Original.
What are they going to do with the next one? It's almost like I'm very curious what they.
The idea of Xbox One made so much and no sense at the same time.
Because SEO, like I want to look Xbox Original. Is that what I search for now? You know what I mean? If I want to look at the first.
The
Xbox.
Other thing is, imagine you sell the Kinect, right? You're number one peripheral of all time.
Yeah.
And everybody in the office sees those numbers. This is where numbers can fuck you over. They see those numbers and they're like, oh my God, we got to put this in our console because it's obvious people want this. And it's like, no, they're already happy with the library and console they had. And this is something cool on the side.
Yeah.
Big difference. Yeah. And you get that. I remember when that was announced and they were like, what do you want? If you want to play your old games, what do you play? And, Matrix, like, well, we have a other system that's called the Xbox 360. And you're like, all right, we're done. This guy fucked it up. Imagine sitting in your office being like, dude, Don, don't talk. Don't answer that. And Don's like, yeah, go ahead and ask me any questions. That's why you should tell the PR people, be like, dude, make sure Don doesn't say, get him out of the office like a bodyguard, right? Got your hand over his head. You're like, let's get this fucker into the limo.
Life would be so much easier if they just went like Xbox 2, Xbox 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know why originally that was done also? Because they wanted something that did not sound like it was behind the PlayStation 2.
Yeah,
So
because
if you
Xbox
have-
2 to the
Yep.
PS3, Xbox
Yep.
3 to the PS4. Yeah, that's
Yep.
true.
That's why you
Yeah,
got it. I mean, Xbox, I love the name. I like
and then
the idea.
Nintendo's
I
like
love the
on
idea.
some LSD
Nintendo,
or whatever.
Dude,
Wii
those
U,
guys never
Wii.
pass the ball, man. They're just like,
Switch. Oh, look! You can switch the controller. We call it a switch.
at
No, but
some
Switch is a
point,
good
somebody
name,
should have
though.
been like, dude, breathe out GameCube. I remember, and it was a
Wii.
game playing cube. That is,
Yeah.
there's
It's literally
something
a
sort of
cube.
ingenious about it. It is, yeah. And by the way, I thought the
Yeah.
GameCube,
Yeah,
I didn't
I
like the
loved it.
controller, but I actually think that thing.
And there's a
rocked.
handle you can like
Yes.
take it. It's
Yeah.
portable.
They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, if you want, you can take this over to your friends. And you're like, dude, it's Nintendo. They don't even understand social stuff 10 years later.
Yeah, they
but it's
don't.
like the
Yeah, they
idea that
don't,
they
yeah.
had a handle is forward thinking for a backwards idea. You're like, wait, you have a handle on
Yeah.
that, but you don't understand social stuff on your 10-year
Yeah.
newer system? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who put the handle on?
They're
You
in
should
the
call them up.
90s, man. They're all about local play. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
they
no,
were awesome. But here's the thing, dude. When they were all hitting hard, the great thing about it is like you were playing Star Wars on the GameCube, and you were like, dude, this
Yeah.
is
That was
this
amazing.
is next
game,
level.
yeah.
And then you were playing like Xbox games. There were some crazy at how to hard drive. You're like, what the hell? Everybody
Resident
was
Evil.
nailing it. And then
Yeah.
PlayStation always have had their strengths, and it's just like, dude, this is a great time to be a gamer. When they were all nailing it, Switch
yeah.
is a little different. It's still very cool. I mean, I like the ideas on the Switch, but yeah, that was the last time, because then the Wii U came out, and you were like, well, the Wii came out, and I remember thinking, all right, Animal Crossing? I think we played. I played a couple of those games, but it was already starting to get to that weird time where it felt all the games were Nintendo focused already.
On GameCube?
On the Wii. I think
On
the
the Wii?
GameCube felt still supported,
The
and there was
Wii
still the
is-
surprising stuff.
The Wii was where they really went away from the
Yeah.
other consoles. The
Yeah.
Wii is like, okay, we're gonna just do our own thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the motion stuff, God, it was so.
Dreamcast had some cool names. They had Project Doral and Project Black Belt, and when they were trying to decide between Power VR and the Voodoo chips, and they were trying to decide which chips got into the Dreamcast. I like some of the code names for some of these systems. I think Zephyr, or what's the one that the emulator is named after the Xbox's. The Xbox emulator is named after the Xbox project, I believe. Xenia, isn't that the emulator that's the most popular for the 360? Isn't it
I don't know
Xenia?
the 360 one actually.
XNIA, I think. Yeah.
I don't know the 360 one.
Xenia, yeah,
Xenia?
wannabe dev
Xenia?
says. Yeah,
Okay.
Xenia.
Yeah.
GameCube had a great design. Yeah, it was a fucking. It was a
It was a
cube with
fucking cube.
with
Yeah,
a
it was
handle,
good.
man. Yeah,
It was good. Though. I think it was powerful, man. The thing was really
it was more
powerful.
portable than the Switch was.
Was
in
it? It
many
was the
ways,
most
which is
powerful at the
weird.
time, right? It was the most powerful console, right?
I don't know if it was most powerful, but I do know that they had little tiny things they did in it, just like they did with the
Yeah.
N64, where like they had little like tricks with the chips, just like the 360 had its little RAM buffer on top of the chip, which sounded so.
They had the most ergonomic controller, though.
Which one?
The GameCube controller was so
I
ergonomic.
didn't- you liked it?
You don't like it, dude?
Nah,
like the
man,
the
not a
triggers
fan.
and the.
Wow. Well, did you like the N64 controller?
I didn't know. That's
Okay.
retarded.
I was just, okay. I was like, where are we going with this combo? Because if so, you're off. You're off.
Yeah.
1080 snowboard. Yeah, there's a snowboarding game on the what was it? SS Tricky? Oh, he's talking about the
SSX
1080 for the P. But yeah,
Oh,
what was
gotcha.
the? Wasn't there a 1080? It was like a skating, or it was a snowboarding or something game with a number like that in the
On
title.
the GameCube.
I thought it was a GameCube. Maybe it was the Xbox. But it was
The
like something
GameCube, I
1080.
had SSX Tricky on the GameCube.
SSX Tricky.
That's the game I played,
What a
and
weird
it
name.
utilized the double up, like the double trigger thing.
Oh, did it?
You know how you can push a little bit and push.
Oh, so they already
up.
had the old like faux analog kind of trigger
Analog
on that.
thing. Yeah.
N64 is great if you have three hands. Yeah,
Sure.
N64 was
That
a
was dumb.
weird one.
That was a
Let's see.
weird one.
Wannabe Dev says, "What's a dish or snack from the country or from your country you think everybody should try?" Ooh, that's a good one. So something we like. 1080 snowboarding. Thank you. I knew I
on the
was right on that.
N64. Gotcha on the N64. Yeah.
NC mentioned Amped 3. It's one of my favorite games of all time, the Amped series.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, what's a snack or
Sure.
a drink or a food of any kind that's from where you're from that you think
Yeah.
other people should try?
Ooh. Fette.
What is it?
Fette is really dope. It's let's do the chicken one. Chicken fette. It's like basically It's so good, man. It's like you take bread, like the pita bread, and
Yeah.
you fry it so that they're like crunchy, like so fried, cut out little bread, and you put it all over the plate. So that's like your first layer, and then you put like a bunch of chicken, like cut up chicken. That's like the second layer with some I don't know what the fuck green things and like I don't know what the fuck like sauces and shit, like white sauces. I think one of them is tahina or something. I really don't know. And then you just eat it, man. It's so good, dude.
I mean,
It's so
you
good,
just
dude.
described a fajita salad here,
Uh,
except
no,
we
no, no,
put
no,
a
no, no.
crushed up
It's all about the
tortilla
spice
on top. Oh, is it?
here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all about the
And
sauce.
I'm
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest. I don't think we've got anything
Do
that
you
is
have any
special.
food like?
Dude, I mean, we came here, across the
Yeah,
Oregon Trail. I think people are just happy to not die of like rickets. I have no
yeah,
clue what we brought over, but like Pacific, I don't hear anybody barbecue. You hear, but it's like barbecue's everywhere, right?
yeah,
Barbecue is
yeah.
what happens when your food's going slightly rotten, so you cover it with a sauce. It's like
Hmm.
that. I mean, I'm not like that is initially how some of that was created, was to cover the bad taste of stuff. But I don't know if we have anything in the Pacific Northwest, Uncrustables, but I think they're
What's
everywhere.
is there any American food that's not like from somewhere else, or is that like not a thing?
Well, and I'm sure there are specific animals here that
Like other than like
aren't from
potatoes and
Europe
steak or something?
that we would
Yeah,
have that like you could say is for sure from here, but
gator.
I would say
No.
oh man. Well, I mean people eat gator, but that's you also have that in Africa, and
True, true,
whether it be
true.
crocodile, alligator, you still got a giant lizard trying to kill you that you eat. I think it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Gila monster or whatever they're called. Yeah, we don't have anything here, man. Like that I know of, at least on the Pacific Northwest, that I would suggest somebody try to eat. Dairy Queen, but I think that's even on the East Coast now. Blizzards. You've never had a blizzard, have you?
Yeah, for sure I have.
Oh,
It's the
dude,
one where they go
blizzards.
like this and flip it, right?
Yeah, they flip
it
it.
this
Yeah,
one.
that's the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
thing. It's like, oh man,
Yeah, yeah.
shit won't
It's not gonna
spill. And I
fall.
always get mad because
Like, I'm
no
just gonna
matter
do
how
it
many
really
times
fast.
I order it, I'm like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, would you just give me the blizzard, dude? Quit playing
Yeah,
games.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah, just
fucking
give
want
it
my
to me.
Oreo blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give it to me.
Yeah, yeah. I loved, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Dairy Queen had the best. It was my favorite burger for so long, dude. What was it
They have the
called?
spicy one. They actually
It
have a
was
really good
spicy and
spicy
it was
one.
like it was spicy and it had a bunch of bacon.
Oh,
Oh
dude,
man,
will
what
you
was it
just? I
called?
mean, I'd eat a fried turd if I had a bunch of bacon on it. Like
Oh,
at
dude, it was
some
so
point,
good, man.
it was
Oh
Dairy
man,
Queen.
I can taste it. It was Dairy Queen. Oh, it was so
Yeah,
good,
Dairy
man.
Queen is sort of considered really low rent in some places, but then you get somebody who really takes care of their machines and the ice cream and all that stuff, and it's really good. It just depends on where you go. But
Yeah.
they're uh, when I moved out of my home, one of the first girls I dated, her mom was a food inspector, and I
Sure.
remember first day, man, she was awesome. By the way, this lady was one of the few parents who's liked me, and admittedly,
Yeah.
hey, I'm probably not likable, but like I came over. I was
Okay.
hanging out with her and her daughter. She's such a great person. And the first question she out of her mouth, dude, was, "Where do you like to get fast food?" I was so confused by it. And I saw Lindsay look at me and she's like, "Oh, here we go." And I said Dairy Queen, and man, she lit into me. I guess
Oh,
they
so
have
Dairy
a
Queen has
bad
this and this, and they have rats,
they have
and
a
they have
bad
blah,
rap,
and they have
man.
blah.
Cockroach,
Yeah.
all that. Like she was
Oh
like,
man.
"What?" Because that was
She's like,
like
remember?
one of the major places she would always have to check was a Dairy Queen.
Yeah, she's like
Dairy.
Phoebe's boyfriend from Friends. That one
Oh
episode.
my
where
God,
she
the guy
takes him
from Short
around and-
Circuit. Yeah, did you know they all
Yeah, yeah,
hated
yeah.
him in real
Did
life?
they actually?
They talk
Oh,
about it,
shit.
and he's apologized like 10 times. They said he was one of the worst people to. He thought he was like a thespian, which is
Oh,
weird because if
no.
you see that guy's movies, they're like, pretty
Yeah.
lowbrow. But yeah, and
Right.
they did not like working with him. He made it really
Yeah.
tough because he thought he was, the comedic in front of an audience was sort of cheesy. And I was like, hey, cheesy or not, they're making 30 million an episode or whatever the hell they were making. Like,
Yeah.
you might
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
step it up. But next thing we want to talk about is Game of the Year awards and nominations.
Oh, baby. Are we gonna go through
agree
them
with
and
every
like
single.
vote?
I agree with every single nomination I've seen so far, and I agree with every single.
Yeah.
I
Do
haven't
you?
checked, man. I haven't checked. I'm gonna be.
one
I'm just
thing,
gonna be honest.
I feel like they are steering clear from any sort of inch of controversy and did not put Hogwarts anywhere You know, not gonna touch it with a
Oh,
10-foot pole. And it's fun. It's crazy
gotcha.
to me because those like J.K. Rowling soy whatever it fucking takes are like 0.01% of the industry. Like there's just like a couple, like there's not that many people, but like I guess businesses just really don't want to unless the game wasn't didn't do anything spectacular. Well, I feel like if they had for me personally, if they had a world build, I would love to see like a world building category or like a
Yeah.
level design category. I think Hogwarts would definitely deserve to be nominated for world building
And
because it
Age
did
of
stuff.
Wonders, you already mentioned it
And
wasn't on like that
It's
right there
odd to
shows a
me.
weird situation.
Age of Wonders is 4x a very very amazing 4x game that didn't get nominated in strategy and sim with in a year or like in many years that not a lot of strategy and sim come out, and the one that did get nominated breaks species and doesn't even work half the time and is very unoptimized. I don't know what they take into account when they nominate these games. So yeah.
So I occasionally will watch comedians, and one of the ones I
Hogwarts
just
Game for
watched,
Impact. Sorry, go.
Game for Impact, is that what he said? I missed it.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, one of
Go
the
for it.
things that popped up, I don't know if you've seen this sort of controversy or whatever, but Theo Vaughn did
Yeah.
an interview with Dana White from UFC, and Theo was talking about how he had a person on the podcast, and then his advertisers called him up at 7 p.m. that night and said, you need to take it down. And they found out it was Peloton, and so then Dana White says, fuck you, I'm removing all Pelotons from the gym. You can't control anything anybody says on a podcast. This guy that Theo invited on, there was no reason. So Dana White backed Theo by removing every Peloton from his gym, which is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bring all this up is that happened because he brought somebody on, and then the reaction was negative, and then reactions happened. This is obviously cultivated to, like you said, not make impacts, not have any discussion whatsoever. And while I don't agree with it, I do want to say I get this feeling. This is just a feeling. No way, shape, or form is this backed by anything. But it's almost like a new kid coming into a school and they're quiet.
Yeah.
And gaming, I personally believe there are some people who are treating the awards, they want to like become big before courting any conversation. Like they want to sort of remove it all so that maybe later they can, or they'll think about it later. And I'm not saying that's a positive thing at all. And I'm not saying that's even true. It's just that when you look at it, it's like Hogwarts should probably be there for, let's say, if there's an open world category. I don't think there's any argument that I would be able to see that through the year you can't look at Hogwarts and say, yeah, I mean, that should be on there.
I think it was for the controversy.
So it's for
like
the desire
pussies.
to not have right. Well, yeah, say it any way you want, but it's the desire to not, which is I find really weird because I covered Hogwarts. Now, I'm going to be brutally honest, man. I ignore everything, so I didn't even know. I mean, I knew that there was controversy with her, but I didn't know it extended to the game. So,
It
and
shouldn't
I guess
have.
I should have. Well, okay, yeah, I guess that's fair too. It shouldn't have. But
the devs, I mean, did an
I just want to
job.
say I covered it.
Yeah,
no, that's right. I just want to say I covered it, and I have not got. When I do get negative comments too, but I haven't got any negative comments about that coverage. Not a single that I've seen. Maybe there's ones there, and I'm not getting alerts anymore because it's an older video. But I was surprised when I heard other people saying I was worried because that, by the way, for sure happened. Where influencers were worried about hearing about it from their fans. There were definitely people who were like, dude, I'm nervous.
Because they're vocal as shit and they steer a chat a certain direction.
Yeah, they can steer a chat. I mean, we've had it in our Discord where, like, I posted something a while ago, and I think I told you this, or maybe you weren't here, but Lucitan made a comment right after, and it destroyed the conversation. So I had to then do a later chat again, and nothing against Lucitan. It was a funny joke. It's just like, oh, shit, it steered this in a completely different... So maybe that's what they were worried about. But I think Hogwarts...
It's the best-selling game this year, isn't it?
It's one of. And for me, when I look at it, I'm just like, dude, why is that not on a list for, And in the past, there's been all this back and forth on why some games are on and why some games aren't. But I think... I don't know how they're chosen to get on there. So that's my big gap in knowledge, is I know who's on there, and I know like if I care or not, and I
It's
know
like two
what's going to be
Nintendo games
shown.
in every category.
Yeah. I do not know how those get it. I like that is
Right.
one huge gap is like how. And the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people that I've seen who are on there don't play a lot of games. So they're
Right.
commentators and people who maybe have podcasts and they maybe review one game a month. And so
The
then I start to
critics.
go, well, here's a problem. If you're
Yeah.
getting the people who don't play a lot of games and this is the largest year of all time, it seems to me that there's a disconnect because they might purposely only go for those big games and maybe
Sure.
they didn't get to see a Vampire or a Greedfall style game because they're not playing a ton. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm talking on my ass because I don't have any knowledge on how that's done. I just don't. I don't follow it too much. I will watch it for sure.
Yeah.
Like because I want to support a dev who wins.
I
want to
like
support a dev who
the
wins.
events. It's fun. That too.
Yeah.
That too for sure. Yeah, it's always nice to see them gain recognition. But one other thing I've been seeing a lot is Dave the Diver is not made by an indie dev, but it's in the indie games category. Now here's the thing. I understand it's not made by an indie dev, right?
Okay.
But I think there's a difference between an indie game and an indie developer. So you get, let's take Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 was made by an independent developer, but it had the budget of a AAA game. It was priced at a AAA level. Baldur's Gate 3 is a AAA game, even though it's made by an indie dev. Dave the Diver had the budget of an indie game. Dave the Diver is priced at an indie level. Dave the Diver was not made by an indie dev. So there is a distinction there, and it's sometimes hard to like kind of maneuver. I think for the sake of awards, maybe there is a point there to be made where you'd want actual indie devs to gain more recognition for their indie games than a AAA game, AAA company allocating some budget for an indie game. That I can see for sure. But I think there is a distinction to be made between an indie game and an indie developer, because those are two completely different things. Yeah, that's.
I don't understand. You're saying Dave the Diver
Yeah, it's
is
Nexon
in the indie list?
Yeah, and Nexon isn't Nexon allocated a small group of people with a small budget to make the game, so it's
But
technically
Dave
an
the
indie
Diver
game.
isn't an indie game. I don't understand.
Is
that what you're saying? Oh,
like the
I'm
budget
sorry.
of it. Yeah. It is an indie game because the game itself is an indie title because of the budget and the price point, but it's not made by an indie dev, right?
But then
like,
would we just turn around and say Phoenix Rising is an indie game because it didn't get as much as Valhalla to spend on and make?
no.
What's this
Okay.
money thing? Who gets to decide what
I don't
is
know.
indie levels of money?
Here's the thing. Like, for example, let's take Baldur's Gate 3. Technically they are independent developers, right? What do you call them? What's her name? Larian are independent developers, but I don't think Baldur's Gate is an indie game, right? Because Baldur's Gate 3 has a massive AAA budget and it was priced at a AAA price point, right? So you wouldn't call Baldur's Gate 3 like an indie game, right?
Did Baldur's Gate 3 get any money from any third-party publisher at all?
No. I don't think it did. I think because they published it themselves and they did everything
kickstarted,
themselves.
and I am not officially I do not officially think that there's a problem with a Kickstarted game being considered indie, even if they were good on Kickstarter. But I'm not arguing with you. I'm walking it in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm trying to walk it through and say
Same. Me too.
Like,
yeah.
And money, that bothers me because are we going to put a line in the sand and say 40 million, let's say? Because if we do, then in 2 years, it's going to have to be adjusted to 60 million. And then in another 2 years, it's going to, and this is why the indie thing has always, I have always thought indie means indie, independent. You are not published by somebody else. And to me personally, I think once every 5-6 years a Baldur's Gate comes out, I don't, and I'm not saying you're doing this, I don't think I have any issue with occasionally celebrating a rampant, unbelievable success, even if that success is 500 million on Kickstarter or what have you, if you get my drift. And the reason why is because I would rather celebrate the occasional outlier than draw a line in the sand.
Yeah.
and be like this amount of because
Yeah, no, me,
oh, man,
I'm just
yeah.
working through it because let's take Pentiment as another good example.
Right.
Pentiment is like a $20-$30 game. Is it an indie game? It has an indie budget. It's technically not a would you, it shouldn't be rated as high as other AAA games because it's not at that price point. It's not at that budget point, but it's made by AAA developers, right?
Yeah.
So what would you call it? Like, would you just call it you wouldn't call it a AAA game. You wouldn't call it an indie game because it's not made by indie devs. Would you call it like what you know what I mean? What is it? What is
You
it
call
at
it
this
a
point? Or
budget
Hi-Fi
game, and
Rush?
you could start saying what's the
game,
what
yeah.
you could say for the year 2023 budget is $29 or less,
Yeah.
and just be.
What about,
I don't know. Yeah.
Or EA originals, like EA original indie games. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting to have that conversation because there's there's two sides
Go
to
ahead,
it. There's
chat.
like
What do you think? Continue.
Yeah, for sure. There's two sides of it. There's like the developer side, and then there's like the consumer endpoint where you're not you shouldn't care about anything except price point and game. This game is $20. I'm gonna play a $20 game. That's it. Because everything else doesn't matter. So I'm wondering, like, because it all gets mired. It's like, is it budget? Is it team size? Is it just like the fact that they're independent and not publicly traded and not
This is
not
what bothered me with the
anyone?
Ascent, man. And God bless them, but the Ascent devs corrected people. But you had reviewers being like, "This is an indie game. It's only got," or it wasn't even about that. It was like they've only got 10 people, and luckily the Ascent devs were like, "Whoa, that's just a lot. Like that. Like you need to study more. That is not what's going on. We have third-person people working. We've got contractors, and the reason why they were smart and did that is because that could come back to bite you if you ride the wave of like."
Sure.
Whatever that good feeling is, and then we find out later. I mean, we talked about this earlier. If you're doing something that's found out later and you didn't have the chance to correct it, that can come back and bite you. And the Ascent devs, for their credit, were like, no matter what somebody's saying, like this is not.
And
correct.
now you also have Devolver Digital, which is you have a collective of indie devs, but they're also published by someone else.
Yeah.
So they're not technically indie, or the publisher's indie. What makes a publisher indie? I don't know. There's so many different things when you start thinking. Yeah.
Do you think? Let's pretend indie is not a category, just for 1 second. I personally believe some of the indie games that are on indie categories would still get into the other categories. So my personal opinion is that maybe the indie dev category is gone or has to adjust in some way. That in the years future, indies know what they're aiming for. If they want to aim for the game awards. Personally, I would love that nobody aims for the game awards because I don't.
Yeah, of course.
And I think most directors you talk to in movies, like Sleep talked to a bunch. We actually had a director in our Discord for a long time until the strike ended. And another guy who was doing special effects, and both of they were like, listen, you might want the movie to do well, but most people are not going Best Director of the Year, Academy Award. They're actually best. I want to make a movie that's fucking awesome. And then if it wins, that's awesome too. But they're not focusing it just, and you're always going to get some jackass who does try to focus it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think the outliers are okay to ignore or in some way make it so that it comes up every 5 years, like Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate's a good question because I don't like it when I just said this. I got over 1 million. Somebody's like, "Oh man, you're sold out," and it's like, dude, nothing has changed.
But it's like a $300 million indie game.
Yeah. So that's a $300 million. So what do you do then? Then you're like, well, that's still an indie game, and they
with
personally,
full mocap.
But here's the thing: do you know most fucking giant games don't cost that much? So technically, what we should say is that's not an indie game. We'll call that the superstar category, and only 2 or 3 games that spend a shit ton get into that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it makes actually more sense to go the opposite route. And then if somebody wants to spend a bunch, hey man, maybe you have a chance of getting in that category. But this is why I think the categories, I don't mind open world, I don't mind, all this stuff. But when you start taking budget and team size into account, it gets really messy because even myself, I've hired you to edit. But I'm still consider myself solo. Well, I don't use you to edit anymore. But you get my drift. If I did, I would still, I'm doing this, Absy's editing. Right. So now, okay, 2 people. But a company, if they hire out Fiverr or whatever to do textures or what, it's like, are we now calling them not indie? I mean, at what point, or not budget or man, I don't know if you can win that. I don't know if there's a conversation that even comes out with any kind of, and I don't know how they do it. Do we know?
I mean, for the sake,
do we know how they do it?
Like how at the
how
like
the
what they
Game
call
Awards
themselves?
decide what a
the Game Awards. Yeah, so moving back to the Game Awards, even though I love David the Diver, and at the end user level, I compare it to other indie games because it's priced at that price point. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'd be like, oh, but for that category and its purposes, I don't think it should be nominated because for that category, I feel like it truly should be just like indie developers that would gain recognition in that category. You know what I mean? So maybe that's
where I
stand
because on it. Dude, the number of people getting personal loans or publishing loans from companies and stuff, like if I look at Remedy, they got money from Epic. We would have never. I am much happier that we got Alan Wake 2 than I am if Alan Wake 2 wins a fucking nonsensical award.
Sure.
I could give zero shits if it wins who gives a fuck? They do. They want to be able to, like, they're proud. But I got to be honest with you. In 5 years, if I was one of them and I was driving my Testarossa, I wouldn't have the fucking Game of the Year statue next to it. I'd be happier about the monetary return and the success I had on sales than I would some jackass award. But at the same time, I do want to celebrate those guys. Like, they absolutely deserve celebrating. But if if we don't know, it's almost like they need to be really clear. And I think indie's hard because we can't even come. And I'm admittedly, I'm pretty headstrong murky. And I don't have it. Murky. Yeah, it's murky like that.
But I voted for Dredge as well. Yeah, I voted. Dredge was on there.
But I got to question you. Did you vote for Dredge because you saw that other game and maybe you would have voted for him if they really were indie?
Yes, I would have voted for Dave the Diver.
Right.
Yeah. I would have if Dave the Diver was made by an indie dev. I would have voted for them. That's
why whenever you put like the budgetary or size thing in front of any of these, it becomes a mess. Versus, let's say, what would we call that? Man, I just think it should maybe go away. But I want to reward indies. So, but that's the thing. Why couldn't? No, can't do that either. God damn, you can't win. I don't know if there's a way to win on that. Like, it would take a lot. Admittedly,
categorizing stuff and nominating stuff, and especially in a year like this, I don't see how anyone could win.
Terrence says journalists get guidelines to vote for nominations, but they choose any game to nominate. So that would mean they're making a choice on their own, which means, and by the way, I think I was told they're not allowed to talk to each other, which, let's be honest, that's
right.
That's the dumbest thing.
Can't see the groom,
there's
can't see the bride before the
can't see the bride before the wedding. Got to wash off my crotch. Dude, man, how do you win that? I don't think there is a way to win that. I think
I don't know.
I just don't want them voted I don't want Dave the Diver to lose a vote because somebody arbitrarily knows their publisher size. See, that's why when we talk, I'm like, listen, I love to talk about the insides of games, but when it matters is the price point, because the other stuff is more the moralistic. It's podcast fodder. I love talking about it on podcasts, but for a review, that's a little weird. And I think awards should probably be skewing almost towards a review in that way, where they have a. There needs to be a line. They should have just called it
less than $30 game. Category.
It sounds so weird, but if you said price, at least the dev would be able to look in the future and say, I hope no dev's doing this. But look in the future and say, if we want to hit that award, we need to come in under or we do hope it, drop it down to 20 so more games come in cheaper. There you go. Be like, dude, games got to be cheap to get in this one, $20. And then you have companies who were going to do 25, and then the consumer gets away with more games for their buck. That's I feel like what just sounded awesome is the most terrible idea ever. Find out somebody like it sounded good when I said it, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure. What's up, Omar? Looking in the chat, it looks like everybody's confused, but I think that
absolutely
happened. I mean, all awards. Absolutely, this happens with the Academy Award. This has nothing to do with just games.
As a gamer, as a consumer, all we should care about is price point and what the game offers. That's it.
Yeah,
you know?
The other stuff is why I tell people to do blogs or a YouTube. If you want to talk about all this stuff, it's fucking awesome. If you want to do I almost called it an anal cis video. Wow. Analysis video.
Sure.
That could talk about this, but when you start, I've seen people say the best like 10 indie games or whatever, and 3 of them are not indie, and you're like, all right.
Yeah.
It's because it's unfair for both.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Dude, yeah, you're like that Baldur's Gate one. Okay. Oh my God. Let's go even farther.
Star Citizen.
Let's fucking go. Yes. Bro. Is that indie? Is Star Citizen only Kickstarter? Or because if Star Citizen's only Kickstarter and technically and they self-publish, that will be one hell of an indie awards in 20 years when that game comes out. I hope I'm alive to that point, because that'll fucking that might draw how did Baldur's Gate not draw this discussion already though? Has it? Because I don't check the internet man. For shit.
I don't know. Like some people, like indie devs with a AAA budget, it's the easiest way to describe it. It's a big budget, man. Over $200-300 million is not.
Dude, and I would go even smaller. But I also, and this is just me being honest, I think we get into people's lives way too much. And so when I hear how much a developer spent on a game a lot of times, I'm like, man, I don't know if I need to know.
Or you can see it from the production value, basically.
Yeah, let me give you an example. Like, if I had 2 rappers that I like come up, and you find out one spent 20 in the mastering, editing, and the other didn't. They did it on their own.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not 100% sure that
wouldn't matter to the end user and shouldn't. Yeah,
it wouldn't matter to the. For the most part, it wouldn't matter.
Baldur's Gate 3 was priced, I think, $60, so it's in line with other AAA games. So I'm just gonna judge it as its price point.
That's why,
and obviously provided way more worth than other $60 games. But
dude, that's why the categories are great, man. It's like open world. I mean, there'll be some discussion about what's open, what's hub, but it's like once it's in there, and I don't give a shit how many people made it. Like, I don't care. It's like, is it a good open world game? And we've seen games that I wouldn't even love, that pixel games that are open world, that I've seen people in the chat just be like, this is the best open world game I've ever played. And it's like, all right, fair enough. I might like Horizon or whatever game, and this person likes, what's the farm? There's the one open door fortress or whatever. I don't know if you consider that open world, but I think we can all agree though, Age of Wonders should have been on there.
Age of Wonders, that was a blow. That was a weird fucking thing, man. Age of Wonders definitely should have been there. It's released in a day and age where not a lot of strategy games are coming out, and they picked, I don't know why did they choose those games that were on there, especially City Skyline over like one of the best 4Xs to have come out.
If it is the same,
I know it's popular, fairly popular.
Like I was saying though, it's like if we all bitch about this 364 days out of the year, you can't be surprised if the same people you disagree with are then doing the awards. So I just don't know how it's all done. Like, I'm going to just plead the fifth on that until I'll look into it. I don't like looking into it because then I just get mad. But I think we all do. And I think even them, I bet you $1 billion if you talk to, Gerstmann. Like, that guy's very blunt to the point to where, you hear, even people who work with him, you hear that. But I find him to be refreshingly grumpy. Like, he's just grumpy. It would be the best way. And I love him, and I listen to his stuff. And I would say, if you asked him what he thought, I bet you he would have 20 complaints about how it's all done. But he's probably smartly just saying, but we're moving forward, so we got to do the best with what we've got. And I think that's probably fair. Chris says, $5 super chat. What about shitty indie games that are priced at $60, such as Quantum Error?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't Quantum Error the one where it was 4 brothers and making the game, and then it did poorly, and they got mad on Twitter?
Yeah. There was if you want to get into another fucking discussion about not stupid, just like very, very confusing discussion about what is and what isn't something. Should Shadow Wolf Gaming asks, should FF16 be an RPG of the year? Should it be nominated as what is an RPG? And that is always a fun discussion. What the hell makes an RPG an RPG?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're probably seeing this now, I believe, because I think the Mario RPG reviews went live.
Okay.
Mario RPG has 3 stats: magic, strength, and health.
Okay.
Pretty generic. It's got RPG in the name. My guess
Sure.
is that when Game of the Year RPG would come up, that would still be in there, even though I think most of us would assume that a true RPG needs to take those stats and not... It can't just reflect them once. Like, it's got to reflect more. But, I mean, at what point, how many stats do you need to be an RPG?
Is stats the determining factor? Some people are saying itemization. Some people are saying
I don't know.
what makes something
Because
an RPG?
technically,
'Cause
I'm just going
everything
to
has
throw a
elements
loop in
from it.
everything.
Sure.
Dredge is an RPG then.
There you go.
And
if
Dredge is not an
stats and
RPG, but if
itemization,
itemization, customization, adjusting what you've got is an RPG, then Dredge is 100% an RPG. And I don't believe that. I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't. It's hard when you come up with a open world and hub. It's like if Mass Effect 1 came out and Witcher at the same year, they're both role-playing games, for sure.
Yeah.
But when you got to the open world part, then you would have to really look and
I think
go,
people just draw very, very like weird lines about what makes an RPG and what doesn't, but there's always exceptions and weird stuff, and like there's no definitive line in a day and age where, like, back in the day it makes sense for something to be an RPG and something doesn't, but now everything has immersive sim elements, everything has RPG elements, everything has, you know what I mean, and any game has like level ups. If every game, almost every game has level ups.
It's a good point.
Shooters, whatever. Almost every game has skill choice. Almost like if that is your line, then every game is an RPG.
Then Remnant 2 is an RPG for sure.
Yeah, Remnant 2 would be an RPG. Fucking God of War is God of War an RPG. It has a lot of customization. It has a lot of different gear sets and systems, and you can do a lot of stuff and play completely different ways and do completely different builds. But would you call God of War an RPG? Like, see, you guys, like, you wouldn't if you're drawing the line on itemization,
because I'm always hammering on this, but I actually have no ill will towards like Game Awards or Jeff Keighley, the Dorito Pope, as people call him. He's a guy who just wants games to get celebrated, but then you look at some of the choices and it's like, well, should we do it this way or should we do it that way? I'm really happy I would rather have this conversation and be mad about the result than not have it. So I'm actually pretty happy that we're having the conversation, because it's like, all right, we're having the conversation and I'm not going to be happy, but it doesn't matter, because at some point, this is just being brutally honest, man. There's no way to fix this, by the way. The world, you're going to have people being like, oh, there's a way to fix it. There isn't. The dude who worked 8 hours on a texture for a rock that looked really good in a game is not going to get celebrated. But if he gets RPG of the year, there's something to be said about that person saying, I had a small part in that. And if that's their one celebration, man, I say go forth, make mistakes, but at least those people might be getting celebrated. Then the moment I'm saying that, I'm like, what about the guy who's working on the game that's not an indie, but really an indie, but has 20 million, who's doing the textures? But like, I fucked that up right away, because I was like, but I do want them to get... I
think there's no winning.
Yeah, there's no winning. I want them to get celebrated, because you'll talk to... We had that guy in the chat. I don't know if he's still in our patron Discord, but he's in the Discord for a long time, and he did cutscenes. And he was always talking about the difficulties with animation and stuff. And not to be rude, he even admitted he was working on games that aren't considered great. They're considered good. The repetitive, racing game that comes out every year, that kind of stuff. But it's like, that guy's not going to get celebrated. It would be nice if they won Game of the Year. You put that on your resume. It's I did that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's awesome.
And then they could release a Game of the Year edition.
Keep in mind, Jeff is the producer of TGA. Most of what TGR is a committee, and nominations are from 120 media outlets. Poor Jeff. I mean, you could distance him, but he puts himself out there, so I'm just going to use him. But I personally have no issue with them doing it, even though I have problems. There's no way to win, man. Imagine what the Academy Awards are like, or whatever. You're just like, Jesus, what is?
Yeah.
By the way, there's another issue that's popping up. Well, I don't even want to go there. There's an issue that's coming up with the Academy Awards and the naming
indie movies versus not indie movies?
naming actors, and do you say like best female actor or best male actor? There's been some discussion on like, how do we,
they don't want to separate the two?
Yeah, there's some, and this is like, I mean, there's no comparison. So back to games, but when you look at indies and stuff like that, you get this delineation that's very difficult. And that's why I personally think it would be better to just be like, get rid of that and just be open world, linear. See, that's another problem.
Oh yeah. Well, so is God of War linear?
No. Final Fantasy 16. That's your big. That was what caused the chat to go nuts. Was when you mentioned that's the one that seems to be on everybody's mind as a crux game that goes both ways. Some people called it this. I mean, what is Final Fantasy? I do call it a role playing game. It's not a great one. I like it.
Yeah. I think it's just
the greatest role playing
RPG with not like no good RPG elements to it. Just because they said it's an RPG and it has that like kind of you move around, take side quests and stuff, but it's more of like it's more of like an action adventure story thing. But then again, it's just what the developers. I think I've solved it. I think you take the developers at their word and what they're trying to do, and then go from there. So if they say this is an RPG, you judge it as an RPG, and then if it has bad RPG elements, you just say this is a bad RPG. If they say this isn't an RPG, but it has like weak RPG elements, then you can't complain because it's not an RPG. You know what I mean? Maybe.
FYI,
maybe that is
100% what I agree with, because when I do reviews, I will look at what they term it. So if they term it as a stealth RPG action, I'll say that, and the amount of heat I get a lot is crazy. People will be like, blah, 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 and I'll be like, hey, man, the developer's calling it this. Some of those aspects are there.
You may not judge it as such.
You should, if they're categorizing it in their PR or in their, you just have to look and say, okay, this is what they're saying, and then is it a good representation? I mean, I think that's fair. Is it a good representation of an action RPG or RPG? That's another thing. Is there an action RPG category in this, or is it just RPG and just action? Because right?
No, there's action adventure, and then there's
is there
RPG.
turn-based versus real-time in these categories?
No.
Good. Yeah. Because I think real-time with pause is very close to turn-based. And we've talked about this there is no winning in that. That's why I think I don't like turn-based versus real-time RPG. Like when you start splitting, I think it becomes difficult. Even though they are different. I think it's okay to just be like, hey man, this guy, their RPG is their main term that they put in there. Categories are hard, man. Hard. Yeah, that's why I hate them.
What does direction mean when they say best direction? Like in my head,
dude. You mean like head, best direction in a game or best director?
Like best direction, like the Game Awards best direction. Like, in my opinion, what I feel direction is like finesse, like director finesse with how they stylize the game, not in the art sense, not in the art direction where it's more styling of like what it looks like, but and more of like how they told the story, like the camera placement and like the how they moved between scenes. Like for example, Alan Wake 2 has really, really good direction in my opinion, but then art direction is like a completely different thing where it could be maybe fucking like art direction I think is more like stylized graphics in a way where Alan Wake just did the graphics thing, but like the stylized could go to like Tears of the Kingdom.
Is there
or something.
A direction in the category these awards?
Yeah, there's direction. Yeah, best direction, and then there's another category for best art direction.
Wait, no, I think we're talking about something different. If it says best direction, it's talking about the game, right? It's not a person's name.
Not a person.
I'm fine with that. Here's what I didn't want.
What would you classify as direction?
Direction really would to me mean that a game, whether it's open world or what have you, continues to move you point to point. Everything seamlessly goes together, even if it's fluff on the side. It sort of fits better than Spider-Man 2's side quests. So you're playing a game, open world. Witcher 3 is a great example of good direction. Witcher 3 has a solid story, but its side stuff is ace. Its exploration is pretty ace. Its graphics is pretty ace. All those things came together. Best direction. I have no issue with that. I thought what you were saying is it was called best direction, but there were people's names. That's unfair because that the amount producer direct. We've even had people on the channel who are in the podcast who've done audio, and they have like 10 names. Audio lead, producer, executive, and some companies we add a name because you want to give somebody a raise, but you don't have a spot. So you'll be like, you're the best manager leader.
That's so odd, man. In my head, direction was always like their unique way of how they tell the story, like how they deliver the story, how they, how they present it to
Guy,
you.
though, I agree, but that is Witcher 3. Look at it. Even it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
The uniqueness of Witcher 3 is that it was able
Uh-huh.
to do all that. So to me, if you, by the way, Witcher 3 is a cop out, obviously, but
Sure.
you look at Witcher 3 and you're like, dude, the direction on that was ace, meaning somebody might have said, let's add some fucking collectibles. And the
Yeah.
directors and producers and the team said, no, that's good direction.
Yeah.
That is as one there's no bumps in the road in Witcher 3 overall, I don't think.
Interesting.
I think that action's a little hedgy. But
I guess I was looking at it from a very movie like thing where it's like, oh, camera placement and
but
scenes
camera
and
placement would you could do that, but if a
Yeah.
game doesn't have camera placement, they wouldn't get in a game direction award. That would
That's
be
true.
weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
what
I just take into a lot into account, I guess,
yeah,
with the
yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
I assume there's probably a blurb under the award where that award is being voted on right now, where they explain overall what they're attempting to hit. But I would say
Yeah.
when you look at any game that really doesn't have any big bumps, I'm not saying it will win or even be nominated, but that's a game that I would probably put aside to think about and say, okay, this game just didn't, it flowed well. It didn't have any of those, what, almost like a pocket in a fucking bad artery where it's just the blood circulating this one bad spot. And you're like, yeah, it's just not working. Spider-Man 2's side quests. I mean, that is a huge problem for Spider-Man 2. And it's like you start over here. And I think that means some people didn't direct it well and say, whoa, we need to figure out how to curb this so that you can go in and out and it feels still
Pacing
like
would
Spider-Man.
be a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you even said the best Spider-Man side quest for you was when they had that bad guy in them, right?
Yeah.
If they had done 10 times less but had 6 mini bad guys, that might be a really good directed game. Like the direction in the game would be really solid because it would feel like there wouldn't be those bumps, man. But again, I'm just
True.
making shit up. I don't know what they've put on their
No,
their
I know.
webpage.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, what is the description under it?
Let me look. Game awards. Direction.
Best game direction. It is awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. Okay. Innovation.
Can I just say that that's
Sure.
a lot of words that somewhat mean the same thing?
In game direction and design. But what is game? Because
innovation.
they defined best game direction while having game direction in the definition of game direction.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like saying the best action title is the game with the best action.
Is the best action. What? Best game direction, innovation, and game direction. Well, thanks, motherfucker.
It's a hard, man. Yeah. I mean, because even my idea, I saw some agree and some disagree. So you've got people, you can't win on that. But I think that description's a little weird. But game design also, I'm a little bothered by innovation because I think innovation can be its own thing. And I think that innovation gets this magical belief behind it. Like, we want games to be, to have a ton of innovation. You're like, what does that really even mean? Does that mean fast streaming like Spider-Man? Right?
Yeah,
that's a technological innovation.
From what
angle is the innovation? And is it innovating across all genres? Because this was probably a lot easier, dude, when there was a game engine that could only do driving. Imagine GTA. Imagine being a racing awards giver, and suddenly they're like, GTA has races. Oh, and you can get out and shoot people, and you can lift weights. And suddenly you're like, well, fuck, man. Like, where did all these... and that happened... it's happened with Forza a couple times in racing. Like, what's a racing game? And then simulation racing versus arcade racing. So... Ravnos says he agrees, but I don't know which part because I've talked a lot. What else do we got? But I'm saying we all agree.
What other categories? There was there was best community support, and Destiny 2 was on there. Didn't everyone,
Destiny 2,
even
you mean Destiny 2 was talked about? Destiny 2 is not a...
It's a nominee for best community support. I thought this year, like, so many people complained about their Their decisions, man. I don't know why it was nominated.
Is Remnant 2 on there?
No, I don't think so. I think Cyberpunk's on there. Also, wait, Phantom Liberty is a DLC. I'm sorry, it's a great DLC, but should it be nominated in like other like best action adventure and shit? What was it nominated for in best RPG or stuff like that? Like it's not. It's in DLC. I've never seen a DLC before get nominated in next to games. That's another thing.
I don't understand. I'm not understanding. Destiny 2 is nominated for best community support.
Yeah, it's nominated for best community support. Yeah. And like, yeah, Cyberpunk got a 2.0 update. Should that, like, if something gets an update, it should be back on, like, it's like, okay, Resident Evil 4 is a remake. I think it has a, I don't know. There's so much shit.
Wait, is No Man's Sky on there then? For best
Yeah,
update?
No Man's Sky is on there. Yeah,
Okay,
No Man's Sky is on there.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky is on there, and Final Fantasy 14 is always on there.
Yeah, right.
Destiny 2 and Cyberpunk is on there, and Baldur's Gate 3 is on there.
Cyberpunk's on where?
On the best community support, because they updated the game or whatever. Best community support Game Awards.
Wait, no, they didn't. What?
So best
no,
recognizing...
that's impossible. Cyberpunk
yes.
did not have any continuing support. They did it together with the Phantom within a week or whatever, but it was one big update.
They like released one update. For me, community support means like a long-term supported game that like
right.
You know what I mean? The devs listen and do stuff, but recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates and patches. There's Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, Destiny 2, for some, that's Final Fantasy 14, and No Man's Sky.
So I just want to point out that okay, this. When a developer themselves admits that there's continuing issues,
yeah,
then I find it weird to then state that there's not, and here's an award or here's a nomination. I could be incorrect because I don't track the Destiny 2 stuff, but I thought it was Destiny 2 that not only had issues but delayed one of their things, had a bunch of problems with Destiny 2 through like these updates this year. Is that not Destiny 2? Maybe that's Division 2? Because Division 2 is not. Because isn't Division 2 on there? Is Division 2?
You're gonna lose your shit. You're gonna lose your shit. Division 2 is not on there, but you're gonna lose your shit. There's another category called Best Ongoing Content, awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that involves the player experience over time, and Cyberpunk is on there as well. But I mean, the other games are ongoing, like Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Genshin, and Apex. But I don't see Cyberpunk isn't really an ongoing game. It's just a why is it just because of the 2.0
is there
update
best MMOs, or because my personal thought is, if you admittedly we don't like them, but most service games we don't like, but there are a couple service games that have continually supported, including, I'm just going to say it, Fortnite.
Yeah.
Despite
Fortnite's on there, and Fortnite deserves.
So,
Fortnite
but here's the thing:
yeah.
if you look at deserving, and then you look at a nominee list, there in no way, shape, or form does Fortnite equal Destiny 2. It doesn't even. It's not even in the same category, or No Man's Sky. It's not even. Destiny 2 is
No Man's Sky isn't even in the ongoing, but Cyberpunk is. Wait.
Huh, weird.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
We're just going to make ourselves mad.
Yeah, dude. You know what? I'm just going to listen. We're going to tune in. We're going to enjoy the time. We're going to enjoy
I can't wait.
We're going to watch some trailers and shit, dude.
Is that it for us? I'm going to.
Best
I mean, I think overall
dude.
it's like I'll celebrate whoever wins. I don't. Man, I don't know. I don't get it, but that's just sort of the way it is. Best ongoing support, best MMO. We should have a best MMO. Is there a best MMO?
No MMOs are on best going, but best ongoing. But is there a best MMO? Game Awards. No.
So
there's no best. There's
ending
best
on that
multiplayer.
weirdness. When
Best
we come back
multiplayer.
on Friday, we'll continue this discussion. Everybody in chat,
Okay.
you need to be back on Friday. We'll have a good discussion about it. You know, it may sound overtly negative, but one of the reasons why I want to make sure people understand we're talking about this isn't like it's. I understand it's hard. I actually want the games that do that stuff to be rewarded. And I can't even explain why Destiny 2 is on there. But anyway, I lost my train. That's
even
so
Destiny
weird. I'll have to
fans
look it up.
complained this year about community.
That
support.
explains why I got a DM from somebody who was like, "Did you see the best?" And they're a Destiny YouTuber, and they were like, "Did you just see that? Ha ha ha!" And I couldn't understand what they were saying. I think I now understand that they were laughing. So I don't get it. But you know what?
Yeah.
Regardless, I know a bunch of people who are working on Destiny who, you know, they're trying their hardest to do a game. So that'll be cool.
Sure.
And then we'll do the awards and we'll be done with it. And this is one of the reasons why the awards is just not always that enjoyable, because it'll become this who's better, blah, 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 when in real life it's like, hey, man, we got some fucking 2023.
Dude, it was an awesome year. Let's just be thankful for how awesome this year was and how many great games there were. There was like a game for everyone. Like at least one game was for you this year. And to me, no game has disappointed me, I don't think. Has a game disappointed me? I don't think. Well, I wasn't really looking forward to Redfall that much.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. Not even a diss on Redfall. That's fair. If you weren't,
yeah. I mean, all the games I was hyped for, I enjoyed every one of them. So yeah, it's great year, man. Awesome.
Somebody says that they thought I missed some super chats. Well, luckily, I can check to see if I did.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Assassin's Creed. I don't know if it's similar. Mordor. Vampire Survivors. Here's to another 1 million subscribers. Gents turning in later. What about shitting indie games that are priced at $60? Time for Babylon 5. Remove the remote control app. An hour behind. Vampire Survivors. Every week I listen. Some love for great content. Who can save Reg? I've missed literally 0 super chats. Might have hit them fast, but so far I've missed them all. Did you like Watch Dogs 1, says KJ10X. I did. Wasn't great, though. It was fun. It was enjoyable. That'll be it for us. Check out next week. Jump into the Patreon Discord if you get a chance. You can buy some shirts there. We're getting new designs for shirts that I'm actually pretty proud of. We have pretty good swag overall. Good enough that somebody stole 2 from Absy on the way over.
True.
I still don't understand. So, like I said, some dude's wearing both those shirts right now going like, dude, I rep ACG. That'll be it for us. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you get a chance, go out there and celebrate a game that you really enjoy. Try to keep it somewhat positive. I'll do the negative stuff. You guys do the positive stuff. Peace out, everybody. Man,